This is the XNC Podcast, your Xbox newscast featuring Colteastwood, hosting industry interviews and gaming talk live on YouTube every Monday night at 5 p.m. on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. For all of you listening around the world, XNC Podcast is available on demand on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome to the show. Join the chat, hit the like button, and let's get into this week's topics with the XNC Podcast live. I was doing the intro and I was watching. I'm such a dork. I was watching my little antics and welcome to the XNC Podcast. I'm so happy to be here. I've got two of my best friends. We got Randall Thor 19 and Miles Dompier. I'm not even going to let them talk. I just want to welcome everybody to the show. Over 200 people here live on the Colteastwood channel. Thank you for checking out this little tiny show that I made. We're on episode 32. We just made it through. It's been a crazy year. A big E3, Xbox with a huge comeback. Jeff Keighley did like a E3 part 2 in the winter, and we've got a lot to talk about. I want to introduce a friend of mine for well over 4 years, a guy who I talk to on the phone every single day, Randall Thor 19. How are you, buddy?
I thought you were going to say Miles Dompier.
Oh,
you know, I'm doing good. It seems to be, I don't even know if I agreed to do this podcast. All of a sudden it was like, no, Cognito's like, you're doing ILP, and then Colt's like, you're doing XNC tomorrow, right? And I'm like, what? Don't I get a break here? Like, what's going on? I'm talking about the same thing. Now I got to talk about the same thing I've talked about twice in the past 3 days. And now I got to talk about it again, but I'm going to try to say a little bit different. What are you doing to me, Colt?
Well, what I did was Miles and I lured you out of a cave like the little Hellblade troll, and then we started throwing flaming sticks at you and said, come do the podcast, baby.
Miles was like, Elden Ring's game of the year. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, but we do have a lot to talk about. Rand, how have you been besides like podcasting your face off? Have you been playing games?
Outside of finishing Halo Infinite, not really. I'm kind of just chilling.
Chilling, bro.
Reading some books I need to catch up on. But for the most part, I don't know. I haven't really been on Xbox too much lately.
You haven't. I've been talking to everybody but you.
Halo Infinite came out. I beat it, and unfortunately, I didn't get any achievements, and I wasn't able to move my save file over to the retail build, which is like, oh, come on, you're killing me with this.
I ran around and unlocked so much stuff for nothing, but I am replaying it right now. I'm like midway through, but who cares about me? Who do we care about, Randall Thor?
We care about Miles Dompier.
We care about Miles Dompier.
What is good? I'm fantastic. Anytime I get to sit and hang out with Colt, and I guess Rand too. Fun anecdote here. For the first time ever, Rand sent me a party invite on Xbox.
That's right, I did.
That
wasn't the first. That's like the second time.
I called him out a few weeks ago because he's Rand offline, and anytime he's on Xbox, and then he's calling me out because I don't send him a party invite to play Halo, but I never know when he's online. All right, and then out of the blue, getting ready to go to bed in the wee hours, comes Randall Thor, knocking on my door to say what's up. And
because normally Miles is in a party with the same 3 or 4 people. I don't want to jump in there and be like, "Hey guys, what's going on?"
The Miles Treehouse on Xbox.
Yeah, like
he doesn't let down the rope to let anybody up.
But he was playing the campaign and he was by himself. I'm like, "Hey, this would be a good time to talk to Miles."
Yeah,
and he joined and we chatted, and then we're like, "Where's Colteastwood?" And Colteastwood was nowhere to be seen.
Hey, I've been playing. I've been driving in Forza Horizon and playing Halo. It's all about those hot holiday exclusives. Shout out to Hargeet Chani, a member of the channel. He's been asking me, hey, add me on Xbox, and I finally got to it. And as soon as we got hooked up on the party chat. We talked last night for about an hour or so, and that's really cool. And there's a lot of other people in the chat who we need to get on a party chat and on Xbox and play some games. He's like, Hargeet's like, hey, we playing some games? I'm like, well, we'd be playing Halo co-op if that that
Zing!
So, yeah. So, but yeah,
soon,
shout out
Cole.
to him.
Too soon. Okay.
Too soon, but
actually,
a long
not
wait.
soon enough. Actually,
there you go. Thank you, Mr. Joanna Dark, for the $5. He says, hello, gentlemen. Excited to be hanging out here with the incredible panel and community. Shout out to the GOAT, Miles. And as try as he might, we didn't get Miles into the game of the year up on stage or anything, but we tried. But yeah, he got to go out and check out that whole thing in LA. So yeah, I'd love to. I got to hit him up in the DMs and find out what adventures he went on. But we've got a whole bunch of topics to talk about today. I've kind of started to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're talking about, so you don't have to just look at the title and try and guess. But we're going to talk about this comeback for Xbox this year. We're going to talk about the Game Awards and break down some of the new reveals and a couple of sneak-in surprise reveals that have kind of popped up on social media, and just kind of cover how we've looked at this year, which has kind of been a surprise for some of the games that we've fallen in love with. So we'll get into that in a minute. I got a couple of chats rolling in. Blaze 4K, I was just had Solid Rev on a couple weeks ago, and those two are partners in crime. They're hilarious. He says, Halo is game of the year. Rand, God of War, I'll never forgive you. So what's the story behind that, Rand?
I hope you're feeling better, Blaze. Because I think they said an ILP you weren't doing well, but I knew you'd be doing better because soon enough you'll be able to play God of War on PC the way it was meant to be played.
I love that.
Well, no, because the story behind it was I had heard back in late 2019 that Sony was trying, or at least thinking about, putting all their games on PC, right? They were testing out the market. And I had heard from like 8 different people that Horizon Zero Dawn was going to kind of be the first one. And I let it slip on ILP, which I shouldn't have, but I did.
That's where you first said it?
Yeah, and man, the PlayStation guys did not like that, because at the time, there was that whole, you don't need an Xbox because you can play other games on PC, and the PlayStation guys were always like, PlayStation knows the value of an exclusive, right? They would never put their titles on PC, and they just kind of went back and forth. People called me a liar. People called me a whole bunch of different stuff. And it was only a matter of time. I knew it was only a matter of time before it would get announced. And sure enough, it did. And then it was like, oh, it's just going to be Horizon. But then like I was hearing like, no, they're thinking about like putting everything on PC. God of War, Days Gone, like everything, Uncharted. And it was just a matter of time. And then, pandemic happened, which I think kind of slowed down some of their plans for announcements and things like that. And then, we're finally here. I got Days Gone out, Uncharted, like Lost Legacy and 4 coming to PC soon. God of War is coming in January. Basically, every PlayStation game you can imagine will eventually come to PC. I mean, I don't have any idea on timing or anything, but I mean, Sony just kind of, I think Sony realizes that the PC isn't as like you can have the PC audience and the console audience, and they're really not going to overlap much. Plus, they see how well Xbox is doing, dominating Steam when they release their games. And plus, these games are also way more expensive to make every single year. And, Phil's talked about it, and even like Jim Ryan's talked about it. Jim Ryan says he's frustrated by the console model.
Those were the words.
He's frustrated. His own words is because there's basically 250 million people every generation that buy these consoles, and they're usually split in some manner. So like the same amount of people are buying the same games, except now the games are costing more and more and more and more to make. Mm-hmm. So if the same amount of people are buying it in the same numbers, 20 million, 22 million, or what have you, you either got to raise the price of the games, which they did, to 70, or you got to find another revenue stream, which is the PC. And
and they don't make a lot of like service-based games where you can buy
at least
extra
not yet.
DLC. Yeah, they
Not
haven't.
yet. But they are. They're going to be making more multiplayer games this generation. So
I have to ask, and I think I already know the answer, but it seems like a lot of people that we talk to, like, you know, the community that we look at, we kind of pretend like it's the whole world. But like, Miles, when PlayStation says we're going to put our games on PC, aren't you just going to play them on your PS5? Is that your plan?
Yeah, I think that what a lot of people don't realize is when we have these conversations about console versus PC, I always joke about being a console heathen. I have a decent gaming PC. I have a PS5. I have the Series X. I have the Switch. I prefer the console experience. But there is a huge number of people who have a PC and are just not going to buy a PS5. There's just no world where they care to buy a PS5. So no matter how many bangers PlayStation puts out, there's a group of people who don't care enough to spend $500 to be able to play on a machine that is quote unquote less capable than they're used to with their PC. So as Microsoft has demonstrated, you know, that all that does is create more opportunities for you to sell your games. And as Rand touched on, games are expensive. Games take so many people. I finished Halo the other night. The credits for Halo are 35 minutes. 35 minutes. That's how many people it takes to make Halo Infinite. 35 minutes worth of names just scrolling down a screen. That's expensive. That is a lot of money to put into a project and have it only sell a couple million. So you really have to start thinking about how to diversify your revenue stream. And, you know, obviously raising the price of a game is one option. But really you can't put all the burden on your customer and say, hey, the games are more expensive, so you're going to just have to pay more every single time we put one of these out. And I think that's what PlayStation's doing with their subscription services, with their streaming options, and now with this strategy for porting their games to PC. And I'm for it. You know, it's just more options and more opportunities for people to play a game. And I've talked about this before, but there's going to be a day and a world where, you know, there probably won't even necessarily be a dedicated PlayStation box or a dedicated Xbox box.
Don't say that, Miles.
Ironically,
the console's going to be gone. No.
And it'll break my heart. Like I said, I'm a dirty console heathen, but it's just
like
not
when,
the
Miles?
way. Like, I mean, I don't know timeline. I would say we still have at least a decade of us fighting over plastic.
I would say we got this generation and one more generation minimum.
I always say like 2035. I don't think they'll go away, but I think if PlayStation and Xbox make a console, there'll be so many people just loading up the games on their TV.
Yeah.
That they just won't. People always get scared, like, no, my consoles. And I'm sure they'll have a product for people who don't have the internet, because the internet's not the same all over the world. North America is also is not that great for internet. Like, I think other countries have it way better than we do over here in North America. But if you just think about your music and your movies, when you don't miss your DVDs anymore, you don't really worry about it. But
I remember the days of having a dedicated stereo, and that makes me sound old. I'm not even that old, but when I talk about having a dedicated stereo system with the speakers attached and having the high fidelity discs and being concerned about that bit rate, and I'm like, no, I can just play this on my phone. Sure, it's going to be compressed a little bit. It sounds good enough. And the convenience outweighs everything else about that. So I think that's the world we're building towards with gaming. Like you mentioned, internet is a huge barrier for a ton of people. But
seeing a big game go to PC, like, the reason why I brought up, like, will you guys play? Because I think Rand would say the same thing too. You'd choose to play a PlayStation game on your PS5. We're not looking at the PS4 and Xbox One era where you had to choose, like, you're stuck at 30 FPS and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, because I already know how amazing the games look on the new consoles with that frame rate. And this morning I watched Solid Rev's review for Halo Infinite. It was a great, like, off the cuff review. And over halfway through, he goes, "Oh yeah, this is me playing on the PC." And I was like, I couldn't tell the difference on YouTube that he was playing on a very highly capable PC. I think he's got, if I can remember, I thought he's got a 3070 build. Anyway, he's got something that's quite a bit more capable all around than a console. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get through this together. Play where you want to play. And don't don't listen to the noise. If you're happy playing somewhere, you're happy with the performance, you're happy with the visual fidelity of where you're playing, then embrace it. Have fun with it. And
and just remember, my aunt still has a VCR. Shout out to Poochie, a channel member for 7 months, says, snap, Colt's been getting money from me for 7 months already. Yeah, I feel like we're in Groundhog Day. Like the time just goes by so fast. He says, by the way, that Matrix thing, Coalition small project. I think you two might know more about the Matrix demo in Unreal Engine than I do. I know Coalition helped. Rand, you give us your knowledge on this thing. This is blowing people's faces off.
I mean, as far as I'm aware, the Matrix Awakens thing was not Coalition's other smaller project. So there's still Coalition's supposedly got 2 projects. Well, I know they got 2 projects. Jez has information essentially about them. So it's like they're doing Gear 6, and then they're also working on another game that's actually supposed to release before Gear 6 in 2023. A smaller new IP, I guess. And then Gear 6 will release, 2024, 2025 or whatever. But yeah, the Matrix thing was not their other project. It's just something they were helping out on.
Mm-hmm.
What in the heck are they working on for the next 2 years, Randall?
I don't know. I don't know if it's in the Gears universe. I think it was like what Jeff Grubb said, that it was like a project they were doing to get used to Unreal Engine 5, and that they just turned it into like a game, which is super interesting because I think most people, us included here, Miles and Cold, has said like, man, Coalition is the workhorse of the Xbox game studios. Like they carried
next to Obsidian.
Coalition and Playground Games carried the Xbox One generation on their back, right?
Yeah.
Both of them had to release games. Playground Games had to release one every other year. The Gears, they had released 4 and 5 3 years apart. We should be getting a Gear 6 next year. They should have revealed it at E3, but Xbox has changed. Now the studios have time, and you don't have to force the Coalition to basically pump out games because you have all these other studios also making games. So, I love the fact that Gears is going to get extra time, and I
hopefully
really,
a grapple.
Yeah, I really want to see because I'm kind of curious. It's like, okay, is it going to be in the Gears universe? Is it going to play like Gears? Like, what could the Coalition make when they're not really, like
strapped
stuck
for time?
Well, they're not necessarily that, but like Gears has to play a certain way, right? It has to look a certain way. It has to feel a certain way. And I kind of wonder what the Coalition could make when they don't have to abide by those things, where it's like, we don't necessarily have to be third person. Maybe it's first person. It doesn't have to feel like this. It doesn't have to have aiming like this. Hell, it doesn't even have to be a shooter. Like whatever they could make, whatever they could dream of. Like I've always said, like, man, I really want to see the Coalition like stretch out their wings and make something that isn't necessarily Gears related. And
Coalition's combat is so much more slick and fast and more enjoyable to me than the older the Epic. Is it Epic games? That's kind of weird to say that.
Yeah,
but it was called.
But you get what I'm saying, because the characters in Gears move a certain way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the
camera follows them a certain way. Like it feels like Gears, and I'm kind of interested in seeing, like, okay, if we're making something new, like what if we got away?
God of War 2018 it a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know, Miles.
Reimagine.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think Rand is kind of talking about the possibilities of these established teams like Coalition. Sure, they've helped on Halo Infinite. Sure, they've helped on, I think, Crackdown 3, a bunch of other Xbox projects, but they haven't really had a chance since they joined Xbox Game Studios to spread their wings and just kind of be creative. And I've, Jeff Grubb's talked about the possibilities of this smaller IP as they're learning Unreal Engine 5. We've seen them do that tech demo for Unreal. We've seen them be involved with this Matrix project as well. So Coalition is getting down and dirty and understanding what
they're hungry
on Unreal 5. And I think the reason they want to do this experiment outside of the Gears universe in between 5 and 6 is to make it so when, Gear 6 comes out, they have a full understanding of Unreal Engine 5. But to Rand's point, I'm also incredibly excited because, like Rand said, you have a team who has to make something feel like a Gears game. You can't turn Gears of War into a third-person hack and slash game or a first-person open-world Skyrim-esque game without everyone being enraged. So it will be nice to see some of these teams like the Coalition. I'd love to see 343 Industries, spread out and try a new IP as well. A lot of these teams that have been under Xbox's umbrella but have been pigeonholed into, you have to make this. We have to keep this franchise going, so you have to make this game. That's one of the main reasons I'm so stoked for Playground with Fable. We know them for cars. They're really good at car games. They've perfected the car PG. Now I want to see how they handle an RPG. So yeah, I want to see what this project is, and I'm curious to see what the scale of this interim Coalition project is going to be.
What do you think this? There were these rumors about 6 months ago about Coalition possibly trying to nab a Star Wars related IP for their next venture. Ram, was that some mixed messaging that kind of turned into these other 17 Star Wars games that got revealed this year?
I mean, who knows? Publishers are always talking about certain projects. Obviously, Lucasfilm is much more open with the Star Wars IP since the EA deal kind of ends. I think the EA deal ends 2023, I want to say, or 2022. I'm not sure when the 10-year deal's up, but yeah, I mean, like we know Microsoft has good relations with Lucasfilm. They just did Miles' favorite game, Sea of Thieves, just had the Pirates of the Caribbean expansion. Indiana Jones and Machine Games, they're doing that stuff. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft maybe, was like, hey, what about a Star Wars game? There's still the Elder who makes Elder Scrolls Online? That's ZeniMax Online. Like they're making a new game and we don't know what it is. Some people were saying, well, maybe it's Star Wars related. I don't know. It definitely does seem like Lucasfilm is definitely giving out the license to more people, and a Star Wars game in Game Pass would definitely reach a lot of people because it is such a mainstream IP. So, I mean, the idea of like the Coalition working on like The Mandalorian, for example, would be like so cool.
I know a third-person Coalition-built Mandalorian game was one of those things. I think when that rumor came up, it may have been 6 or 8 months ago, but I did a video and I showed a short clip of Mandalorian as I talked about what could be, and people start salivating I know I'm salivating with you. We want something like that, and you make such a good point, Rand. When EA was letting go of the license, like it opens it up. Any of the Xbox studios could take on some type of, or any studio around the world can make an amazing Star Wars game. You just can't leave it to one. I feel like EA is kind of tripped over certain things.
Well, there were
Squadrons wasn't that great.
I think John Riccitiello was the CEO of EA when he made that deal, but then he left and Andrew Wilson became CEO, and it's widely reported that he did not like that Star Wars deal.
Yeah, I mean, Jedi Fallen Order is amazing, I have to say, in the chat before anybody goes crazy.
No, Jedi Fallen Order is amazing, but it almost seemed like EA didn't really use their licensing to the best of their ability. There was a lot of canceled Star Wars games, and now you have Ubisoft making one. Hell, Quantic Dream is making a Star Wars game. Like, did you guys have that on your bingo card? Like
what a world to live in. I had heard some. I don't remember if it was Jeff Grubb or somebody was talking about that a while ago. I heard rumblings of Quantic Dream making a Star Wars game, and in that style they're known for. And it, I guess it's kind of cool to see CG for it and know it exists. Because at this point, I think there's just a group of people who will play anything that is Star Wars, no matter who makes it. If it's got Star Wars on there, there's a line around the door of people that are going to play it. So you can throw any studio you want that makes games right now and attach it to Star Wars, and someone out there has a Reddit thread about what that's going to look like. Which I get it. It's
Star Wars, one of those IPs where the big console publishers come sniffing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
Like,
there's some brand power with Star Wars, baby.
PlayStation's got Knights of the Republic locked down as a timed exclusive, and I don't know if we'll be talking about this later, but Star Wars Eclipse didn't have any platforms announced for it.
That bidding war begins,
the Quantic
baby.
Dreams one.
The Quantic Dream game didn't have any platforms.
Quantic Dream, yeah, I mean, we can assume it's going to be multi-plat because they wanted to get out and they wanted to get to PC and not just on PlayStation. But man, I'm going to shoehorn this into the subject of the talking points right now, guys. Let's start with Miles. Like, this is the thing. Like, Xbox is like, hey, timed exclusive, 3 months, and then we're done. And then PlayStation is like 2 years, and you're lucky if the 2 years ends if that game comes out. What can you give me your opinion on what PlayStation's what their strategy is here? These long exclusives, like when you forget about it, then we'll put it on Xbox.
Yeah. It's the industry right now is incredibly interesting because you have everyone kind of firing on all cylinders in different ways. So PlayStation understands what Xbox is doing. They've seen Xbox acquire these studios. They've seen that Xbox is now starting to deliver on these promises, deliver these games, and they don't have the sheer number of studios needed to compete one-to-one when it comes to game for game. And they know that. And that's why they are leveraging these partnerships, leveraging these business relationships that they've had for a long time and saying, you know what, we are going to be aggressive. We need this to be 2 years. This can't be, at a certain point, I don't think anyone excited about a Star Wars game is going to wait 2 years to play it, or at least
that's a long time.
Yeah, one's a long time. That's their rationale. Final Fantasy, they are hanging on to Final Fantasy for dear life because there are people who will buy a PlayStation for Final Fantasy, and they get that. And so their strategy right now is, in the interim, while they're acquiring these teams, while they're diversifying their portfolio and trying to expand their offerings, they got to lock down these third-party deals as a way to kind of fill those gaps. People have their preference. People, decide what strategy they like better. But the reality is these people are competing in a real way. And PlayStation is doing what they need to do, or what they think they need to do to compete here. And in the short term, that's going to be locking down every big exclusive they possibly can from third party. So I'm sure, Knights of the Old Republic is not going to be the only one we see in the near future. And I'm curious to see how hard they go and, what franchises they take from Xbox fans.
Jeez. Yeah, it's just when I think about Deathloop, Rand played it on PS5 and he's like, Colt, maybe you want to wait to play it when it goes on sale or get it on Game Pass next year. And I'm thinking, that seems like so long, just 1 year. But Rand, where in the heck is Final Fantasy VII? Are we supposed to, is it just going to magically pop up in April?
I mean, who knows? Like Miles says, Sony, like, this is business at the end of the day. They're trying to make their consoles as appealing as possible to people. And Microsoft's focus is on Game Pass, which you can clearly tell. But the deals for Game Pass don't need to be that long. It's like you put the medium in there and the medium does work. People subscribe or they don't subscribe or they stay subscribed. But then like it kind of 5 months later, it's like, okay, we got everything out of the medium that we could. So it can go to other platforms. And maybe that's a better way for Microsoft to get more timed exclusives because they don't need to be locked away for so long. Whereas PlayStation is... to me, they're trying to lock down big IPs. Like they locked down Star Wars Knights of the Republic. Star Wars is a huge franchise. They basically have a stranglehold on Marvel games for the most part. So if you're a Marvel fan, Spider-Man, Wolverine, stuff like that. Like if you're a Marvel stan, you love Marvel games, well, there's only one console for you. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, there's only one console for you. And I get it from Square Enix perspective because PS5, PlayStation 4 is going to be where the vast majority of those sales take place. So if you're Square and PlayStation comes to you and is like, listen, we'll pay you for an exclusive. And Square is like, well, all of our sales are going to come from this platform anyways. And we're going to get Sony's money from it. Like, of course we're going to take that deal. Mm-hmm. So they do these long 2-year things.
I feel like they get a good deal too. I feel like PlayStation doesn't pay out the nose to get somebody like Square Enix or Capcom
I'm sure it's expensive. I'm sure it's expensive to lock down Final Fantasy VII Remake, not only from Xbox but also from PC. Like it's finally coming to PC. You know what? Like I think next week. I mean, I would imagine that's quite a bit of money. So that's what it is all about. I mean, you quote unquote the console war. You know, there's somebody out there who really doesn't care about Microsoft's exclusives or PlayStation exclusives, but you know, Star Wars is something that really goes beyond just like gaming, and so does like Marvel games.
Mm-hmm.
And those might entice people to be like, all right, well, I'll get a PlayStation because I like Star Wars or I like Final Fantasy. And like Miles said, I think you'll probably start seeing more and more of that as time goes on. You know, there's a lot of rumors regarding games PlayStation might be funding. You know, there's potentially From Software's next game after Elden Ring might be a PlayStation exclusive, which that would be pretty big, wouldn't you say, Miles? Like if that actually happened.
True story. I bought a PS4 for Bloodborne. The second I saw that Bloodborne trailer, that's the day I was like, well, I'm buying a PS4. So there's definitely weight to it for some of those franchises. Street Fighter. PlayStation has Street Fighter, Rand. That is a huge deal for a lot of people. It's not the biggest IP in the world, but there are people who are like, well, I love Street Fighter, so I'm buying a PlayStation for it.
And that's where the whole Bethesda thing comes in, because people love Elder Scrolls and you know, Wolfenstein and all these games from Bethesda where
that's weird that people get so mad at Xbox for buying Bethesda, but PlayStation has this long history of buying IPs and holding them to the platform that they don't own. And it's been pretty powerful. There's been a lot of games that I kind of raised my eyebrow because most of the games come to PlayStation, Switch sometimes, and they almost always come to PlayStation and PC. It's been very few other than the games that PlayStation owns that are only on PlayStation. I've seen so many games that are like, you look at it, it's like available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. But some of those deals are changing. But to look at all of those big IPs, those franchises that PlayStation just said, look, we're going to pay the money, and if you want them, the place to play is on PlayStation. Did the same thing with Star Wars with Battlefront 1. They marketed it like it was literally only on PlayStation they almost said that in a way. I don't know if you remember back in 2015, I think it was, the marketing for Star Wars Battlefront 1 was pretty much the place to play Battlefront.
They even had a custom PlayStation 4 console for it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget how PlayStation marketed Destiny.
Yeah,
Xbox
Destiny.
didn't even talk about Destiny. Like they were remember they made that like the Destiny perfume or Destiny cologne or whatever because they weren't allowed to mention Destiny in the marketing, and then they had to take that down. So this stuff can get pretty vicious.
I had people come up to me, like people disconnected from Twitter and all that stuff, that thought Destiny 1 was a PlayStation exclusive. That is the power and weight of marketing when it comes to being outside of the bubble that we kind of find ourselves in. Is there were people who thought that Destiny was only for PlayStation just because of how it was marketed with that PlayStation logo.
The big cardboard like stands in the stores and stuff that with all the blue. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I saw it a lot with that Battlefront game because my friend who wasn't like really into that, he's like, do I have to get a PlayStation to play that? I'm like, what? No. So it is super powerful, and we're gonna get back into this discussion in a minute when we talk about the reveals of the Game Awards, because like Rand kind of alluded to, there's some things where like, you know, are there deals yet to be struck? And we'll get to those. But I got a couple supers I want to read here. Let's see. We got Kingfish 737. Thank you so much. He says, Colt, always a joy to see your podcast. Happy to see Miles. Happy belated birthday, Miles, which was on the 8th, 9th.
Same day as the Game Awards. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
And he says, always happy to see Rand. And when he says that, he means his avatar. But we'll get that changed eventually.
No.
We'll break him down slowly for months and months. We'll whittle his resilience away.
And I do know behind the scenes that Jez has been putting Rand in a headlock and give him the noogies and say, let's get your camera rolling, because Jez wants to show his handsome mug to the world and blow kisses to his fans. So it'll happen eventually. Achievement, thank you for the $2. A shout out to every single one of you beauties. Oh, that's nice. Will King with the $10. Just keep up the good work, guys. Xbox is killing it this gen. What was your favorite reveal showing from the Game Awards? We will get to that in a minute. Yodani Quezada, I need this guy to hit me up on Xbox Party Check. We need to talk. He says, play where you want, but please try and play by the rules. Those cheaters on Halo they're making people sweaty. He says $70 PS bangers are coming to PC sooner, and got PCMR putting on eye patches and peg legs. I think he's referring to
Sea of Thieves, right? Yeah.
Sea of Thieves.
Yeah,
we'll say Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves coming to PlayStation, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so funny because Square Enix, we were just talking about them a minute ago. They've decided to change their games to a $70 price point. You've got Rockstar and Take-Two and Activision and PlayStation. Who else is doing the $70 game, Rand? Is that about it?
I mean, Call of Duty. I mean, Activision's doing $70 games. I don't think Ubisoft's decided yet, although I think the whole industry will shift to 70 eventually. 2K's doing $70 games.
Yeah.
Who else is doing $70 games?
Ubisoft is not, and they're
not
huge.
yet.
Yeah, and they've kind of like part of the marketing of Far Cry 6 was almost taking a dig at that.
EA's doing $70 games, I believe.
Oh my god!
For next gen, because they're like Battlefield 2042 is 60 on Xbox One and PS4, but 70 on next gen consoles. So,
yuck!
It's here to stay, boys. We lost the fight.
Risk It for the Biscuit, channel member for 4 months, says, did you guys see the Xbox documentary yet? So nostalgic. I've had Xbox since day one, all the ups and downs, and it's here. It's a great time to play. Let's talk about this just a minute. Rand, have you checked out this Xbox Power On?
I watched the one about the 360 and then the one about the Xbox One. So it was very nice to see Donnie Matrick back. I can't believe that got back to talk about this stuff.
I don't even know what Don Matrick went to Zynga after he left Xbox Studios.
Yeah, after he got fired, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did he get fired? They kind of made it sound like he found another
nobody
job
really gets
in a nicer
fired.
place.
They get to leave, but come on, let's be honest.
Pursuing other opportunities.
Yeah, Zynga,
yeah, which was Zynga.
And then what happened to Zynga? That place
too.
went down the tubes too, but what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, I only watched the first half when they talked about Microsoft and Windows and how they stepped in the scene and decided to make a game console. And but I haven't really checked it out. Miles, did you watch very much of this yet?
No, I haven't. I was talking to the wife earlier today because I watch a lot of TV with her. Like I don't watch a lot of TV on my own, so I'm like, hey, I want to watch this. Would you watch an Xbox documentary with me? And she's not a huge gamer, but she loves a good documentary, so she's in. So we're gonna check that out later tonight.
Nice. Yeah, that's a long thing to watch by yourself. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. My history with Xbox starts in like 2007, so some of that stuff is going to be like, oh, that's what it was like. Well, people were like totally ready for this new console. I was like on the outside. You guys were there day one, weren't you?
Day one, baby.
Miles, you were like 14.
Yeah, I was a wee
12.
lad. Yeah, 2001. So yeah, I was just about to be a teenager when the OG Xbox was hitting the shelves.
Can I get an Xbox?
I was over there, have my little skateboard. I saw the edgy marketing.
Same hair.
Oh man, like I'm getting older now. I need a more mature console.
Did you see the commercial, Miles? I mean, I saw it like 12 years ago on the internet, but the one of the guy shooting out of the baby and growing into a naked dude flying.
Dude, the late 90s, early 2000s, just the Wild West for advertising. It was so good. So good.
What about you, Rand? How did you get started on the Xbox?
Halo 2.
Halo 2,
Halo 2.
05, 04?
04, right around launch of Halo 2. I got an Xbox a little bit before then. I played Halo, Knights of the Republic and stuff, but yeah, it was basically I fell for the hype of Halo 2, and so that was when I got my Xbox, when I made my gamer tag, and been there ever since, essentially.
Ermi in the chat just said Colt was rocking the Jinkos back in the day. Yes, but not the ones that you think. In 95, I had a pair of Jinkos before they were huge, like stovepipe, huge pants. They were just kind of regular baggy pants, and they were like $50. And I came home from school one day, and my younger brother, who was like 12, was wearing them, and I was so mad. Get those off. Go in your room and change. I paid $50 for those. Those are the days. But
Jinko jeans and yo-yos. Boy, what's good? What you know about that life, huh? Yo-yo man ever come to your school, huh?
The funny thing about that was like three years later, the Jinko jeans were so baggy that people would staple the bottom to their Tommy Hilfiger tennis shoes. Crazy times. And we've lived through it all. But looking back at Xbox in the early 2000s, it brings back so many memories. Like even that time was crazy. But let me get a couple supers here. We got Space Dovikin with a $2 says, amazing panel. I mean, we got Randolph Thor, 19, and Miles Dompier of Windows Central. Xbox 2, Windows Central, little tiny podcast, X&C. We're trying to keep it fun. Hargeet Chani with a $5 says, would be awesome if instead of timed exclusives, they moved to putting games day and date into Game Pass and Spartacus. Can see Xbox doing it. He says, not sure about PlayStation. So also welcome Rodney Coates, new channel members. Got the Ori icon that I drew up. So welcome to the channel. If you're a channel member, you get to see my video. I mean, if you want to, you get to see my videos like 10 or 12 hours before they go up, because I finish them in the evening and then I go to bed and they go out the next day. So you get to kind of, be in the comment section first. But yes, thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you to over 800 people who are watching live. We're here. This is X&C Podcast on the Colteastwood channel. I am here with longtime Xbox veteran Randolph Thor, 19 of the Xbox 2 podcast. This guy's got over 1 million gamer score. You know who he is. He makes fire videos. He's got a YouTube channel with about 85,000 plus subscribers. And I've got Miles Dompier, the new kid on the block from Windows Central, the new kid who's been here a couple of years and has been making all the waves. Real quick, I got to ask Miles, tell people, you got to kind of have a hero interview on your show, Xbox Chatterdays, that runs in the morning.
Yeah. So Xbox Chatterdays, my little Xbox podcast, if you're unaware, hosted over on the Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel. We had our 50th episode, so I got to celebrate the big 5-0. And for that, I got to sit down with the executive producer, Joe Neat of Sea of Thieves. So I got to have Joe Neat in the hot seat for, we went like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it was a lengthy episode, but it was so cool. I got to talk to Joe Neat about monetization in gaming. I got to talk to him about the culture of Xbox game studios. And then obviously if you're a Sea of Thieves fan, a ton of awesome information about Sea of Thieves. But yeah, Sea of Thieves, when we had the Xbox Museum, that was my most played game 3 out of the 5 years that were on there. So
I was going to ask, how many hours do you have in Sea of Thieves?
Close to 900. I think it's like 70-ish, something like that. So
I was going to guess like 200 plus. What's that like to sit down with like one of your favorite game developers and talk shop?
Oh, it was awesome. It was such a blast. Like obviously you want to be a geek and kind of fanboy out, but it was really cool just to be able to sit down and talk to him about, Halo Infinite, about the Game Awards, obviously Sea of Thieves, and get these genuine conversations going. And that's kind of the format that I like about my show, is that, how often you get to sit down and ask someone, like, when you're doing monetization in a game, why do some companies charge a ton of money for one item? And then to have Joe Neat explain, like, and with our practice, we want to make sure that more people are spending less instead of kind of exploiting our core audience. And to hear this person talk about, the business side of gaming, obviously you got to make money, but also to hear him say that they're not trying to exploit the people playing their game and exploiting their most dedicated fans. For me, that's huge, because obviously I want to live in the gamer utopia where money doesn't matter. Everybody gets content for free. Everybody gets all these games for free. Developers don't have to worry about, getting fired or their studio shutting down. They can make whatever they want. So it's nice to be able to, hear those sentiments and to know that people are trying their damnedest to do what's best for the players. And warms my little heart,
it does seem like we're getting there. Like we're getting in that situation where Xbox Game Studio teams don't have to worry about going away. And Xbox looks back at the closing of Lionhead Studio recently and said, they wish they wouldn't have done that. But, they have a whole different set of leadership. And I think it's going to be a lot better. And I got to say, this is such a good time. We've got over 800 people watching. If you're having a good time, do me a favor. And for random Miles, if you minimize the chat and hit the like button and show your support, let's see if we can get up to 500 people that like the show and had a good time and learn something, because we got to get into these topics, because we might have to skip some of the warm-up ones too.
I got to say, the whole thing about Lionhead Studios was they were working on Fable Legends, which was a 4v1 game. Do you remember when 4v1 was the next big innovation in multiplayer?
Evolve, ever heard of it?
Like
asymmetrical?
Asymmetrical, yeah.
Asymmetrical 4v1 was supposed to be the next big thing in multiplayer gaming. And then Evolve crashed and burned, and then suddenly nobody wanted to do 4v1, and Fable Legends never came out, and it's like, okay.
I didn't realize it was asymmetrical. I thought it was 4-player, like, I don't know. I guess I thought it was sort of like a MOBA, but I never got to play it.
One person was the dungeon master. Basically, it was like kind of D&D. One person was the villain dungeon master, and then the 4 players were the heroes. It's weird that the weirdest thing about that is they were doing tests. Like there was like a beta that you could sign up for, and people were playing it. Like this game was
money.
Like,
you could spend real money in the beta.
This game was almost done. Like
it looked phenomenal.
Did you guys play it?
I didn't get to play it.
No,
I actually got to play it with Phil.
Ooh,
played it with Phil. We were playing Fable Legends together. And then I think the next year they shut it down and they closed the studio.
Back in a couple of years ago, or maybe a year ago, it was before the Fable reveal. I tried to get Fable Legends footage to show on the channel, and everything on YouTube is really just does not look nice, or it's low quality captures. But I wish I could see the game in person, because there's a tech demo. If you downloaded it, you can fly through the world, and I've used those in videos. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It just flies over the environments. The game looks incredible. And this is Lionhead Studios that was relegated to make Connect games and a multiplayer game that just didn't land. That's too bad. But I don't know. You got me talking about
that's
Fable.
because as I said in the thing, they tried, instead of nurturing them to help them make the games that they're good at, they basically forced them to change who they were. So it's like they made them make a Fable Connect game, Fable the Journey.
Was this a Matrick thing? This seems like something that Don Matrick was, he's not evil, but I feel like he was trying to expand Xbox into this interactive media, get your music, movies, and videos all connected through.
Well, yeah,
have every family buy 8 Xbox 360s and connect them throughout the house. That was part of the Windows 7
that was part of his plan. They made the quote in the documentary about like, okay, we don't want to sell 30 million consoles. We want to sell 300 million, because they want to broaden the demographics. Jeez. But like with Fable was like they made RPGs, and then you make them make a Connect game, and then you make them make a 4v1 multiplayer game, which is not what the studio's built for. So it's kind of like, well, we try to force them into making a game that we wanted them to make, instead of nurturing them to continue to make the type of games that they excel at, right? Which is like when you get Obsidian, you don't want Obsidian to suddenly start making multiplayer games. You want Obsidian to continue to make the games they're good at making. And that's kind of the lesson they said they learned. I wish Lionhead was still around. I really like Fable 1 and 2, but some of those lessons you need to learn as a business, I suppose.
I mean, people look at 3. I'm sure there's people that are fans of 3, but I've tried to play it. Yeah, there's a reason why some games just don't do it, but I don't know. Let's see here. I was going to go over real quickly. People were quite shocked about the sales figures. The Switch took November, the big holiday season sales
Surprise.
figures.
Plot twist. Switch is
they've only been number 135 the last 36 months. Are you shocked that they won the holiday? Wow.
And it's been out like 3.5 or 4 years now. When did it released in
2017?
March of 2017. Yeah.
So I can't do the math. Count my fingers. Carry the 1. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. The Switch is still going. I don't even think it has to do with the OLED, that OLED screen. I think that thing just sells. It's a great Christmas present. What can I say? But the Xbox Series S and maybe the X topped the PlayStation again. Miles, explain this wizardry.
Well, if we're being real and if I'm being boring, which I'm gonna do, sorry. The reality is, it's just the shortage. The console that is selling the most is the one that has the most in stores, and people, I think, were holding out hope for the Series X and the PS5 this holiday. And as we got closer, they were like, I want something. I got to get something. And I think that's why we saw the Series S on Black Friday in particular explode. Like, you know what? I want to play Halo Infinite. I want it to be at 60 FPS. I'm going to get the Series S. I've heard good things. And obviously, there are still a dedicated group of people who want the premium consoles, but they just cannot make enough of the premium consoles. They wish they could sell more. And if availability wasn't an issue, I think we'd have more of a level playing field with the Switch. Obviously, the OLED has been incredibly difficult to get if you're trying to get their new one. But the older models, for the most part, are still, fair. I don't want to say easy because it's not easy to get a game console at all right now, but they are the easiest to get. So the reality is that we are in a chip shortage, and hopefully the timeline for this just constantly gets pushed. It was supposed to be over in June, and now it was supposed to be over towards the holiday season. And now they're like, yeah, it's going to go for like another year. So hopefully all the people who want a Series X and PS5 can get one sometime soon-ish.
Yeah, sometime soon. So it says here, I'm reading this thing, the PS5 and Xbox combined barely equals what the Switch sold, right?
Yeah.
And the Switch sold actually...
Say that again?
So if you take the numbers of PlayStation 5 and combine them with how much the Xbox sold, it equals basically what the Switch sold. So Switch sold 1 million. So PS5...
The other consoles sold 500...
If
million.
Yeah, 1 million combined. But the Switch sold less than last year.
Yeah.
Right? And this is an interesting stat. The PS4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U sold more in November of 2014 than Switch, PS5, and Xbox Series this year. So that's how you know how bad the shortages are, because those consoles back in 2014 sold more in that first holiday season than what you would everybody thought, like, oh man, like this is going to be a great holiday, when you're planning these things out. And then nope, the shortage. So nope, I don't think the numbers are out for what Xbox or PS5 sold. I know.
I mean, there's VG charts stuff, but
VG charts is always wrong. Never pay attention to anything they say.
VG charts is just a guesstimation, and they're transparent about them.
VG charts had like Xbox selling 900,000 units the week of Black Friday or something like that, and it's like NPD is basically saying like, yeah, like Xbox and PlayStation is basically like 600,000 plus 400,000 or 550 plus 4, like who knows what the numbers are, but the point is it's and like I think the industry total overall was down by quite a bit from last year because there's no consoles to buy. So and it sucks because I think people get depressed like when we make videos about Xbox and like the games and the hardware. And there's people that follow us, but they don't want to hear us talk about it because they can't get their hands on the consoles because of bots or scalpers or whatever, just not right place, right time. So they get kind of turned off. And
I read my comment section a lot, and I did 2 or 3 weeks ago. I did an Xbox Series X 1 year later. Is the console worth it? And I got so many comments like that. Rand, you and I've talked about this quite a bit about how people who may have liked watching a Randall Thor video about the Xbox news have kind of been turned off. It's been a year that Rand and Colt and Miles and Dealer and these guys that I watch these guys' channels. Like I've been watching their videos, and someone might say, I'm not really interested in watching the next great news item coming to a console that I cannot get a hold of because of bots. And I've got 2 questions for you, Rand. Number one, the Nintendo Switch has been selling like hotcakes and killed it in the holiday season. But with what game? Like, is there a game that drives the sales of the Switch, or is the Switch just a great buy?
I mean, kind of like with the PS4 for most of last gen, it was just the de facto console, right? It's like it's like that's the console I'm playing these Maddens, the FIFAs, and the 2Ks on, and it kind of just is that default mainstream console that just people buy. You know, during the 360 gen, it was the 360 over the PS3 for that reason, and then the Wii was sort of the anomaly, right? The Wii had kind of tapped into that whole family thing, but then the Wii died off. The Switch is just kind of that. It just, I don't know. It just kind of. There's a lot of Nintendo fans, and
it's a hot commodity.
They do have a lot of games. It doesn't. I don't think the Switch needs games to really push itself. It's because the brand is so strong that people want it because it's like you said, it's a good gift that you can give to kids. You know, kids are 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. You can give them a Switch, give them Animal Crossing. You know, people grow up all. You know, kids are growing up all the time. You can give them a Switch and give them some younger games that are on that platform, and it's just going to keep on rolling, man. It's just going to keep like I think Pokemon Diamond and Pearl came out. Miles, you're about the Pokemon. Wasn't there a Pokemon game that came out? Was it for the Switch?
God, right there. Yeah, so like clockwork, there's going to be a Pokemon game every year. You can bet on that. So yeah, there was Metroid Dread, which was obviously in the Game of the Year conversations, late October, and then holiday-wise, you had Pokemon Diamond and Pearl.
When did Metroid Dread? I forgot. When did Metroid Dread come out? I'm sorry.
Late
I apologize, everyone.
Last 28th or something.
No. Metroid Dread came out the same day as the OLED, so like October 8th. It was like October 8th. No, October 8th.
That's
what I'm
still
saying. October
nice
28th
for the Switch.
Not the 28th, the 8th.
All right, somebody fact check Rand here. All right.
Am I really know more about Nintendo than you do here,
Miles? When has Rand ever been wrong?
Oh, do I have to pull out the list or what?
I'm always right.
Oh my gosh!
Let me go on Google right here. Let me go to Google. Let me type in Metroid Dread release date. Let's see, Metroid.
Tell me if it's closer to 28th or the 8th.
Metroid Dread video game release date October 8th.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Well,
Miles.
the point is that was one of the games worth playing on Switch this holiday season.
Yeah, but Metroid as a franchise has never been that big of a seller for Nintendo.
And that's why they didn't make one for a long time.
Yeah. So I guess the Pokemon games, was it Diamond and Pearl? They sold a lot. But I think it's just one of those things where Nintendo, just like the 360 when the Kinect and stuff, that was just the gift you give. That was just a dominant system.
Yeah.
So people just give it to each other. I don't know why, because Nintendo. I'm not going to say anything.
Nintendo does have those games that just last forever. Like my kids have been playing Animal Crossing all year. I think we got it last Christmas. I think. Yeah. I mean, they still play it. But the other question I was going to ask you, Rand, I heard this from someone that we hear stuff from sometimes, a good friend of ours. Is it true that the Xbox Series S, they can get 2 consoles out for every time they try to make one X? Is that one of the reasons why supply? Because when you look at the PlayStation 5, like the 2 consoles are different. You just don't have a DVD drive in it or a Blu-ray drive, right? So if you look at the Series S, it has less silicon and all this magical goodness in it. Is that true?
I mean, supposedly, yeah. That basically, it's like they can get 2 Series S's from one chipset that would make like one Series X. And I think they prioritized the Series S for this holiday, and it showed. I wonder what the sales would have been like if they prioritized the Series X.
I mean, Miles, is that a good idea to prioritize building the bigger X's and just letting them be subject to the scalping situation in the holiday season?
I mean, it is tough because obviously there are a ton of people who want the X. The X is the premium offering. That is, there is a dedicated group of people who aren't going to buy a new Xbox console until they can get that one. But on the other hand, if they are making 2-to-1, you can get way more people in the Xbox ecosystem. You can get way more people subbed to Xbox Game Pass, and you can get way more people playing and buying games if you can pump out more Series S consoles. And as I've seen, and from firsthand experience and online, there are a lot of people trying the Series S who maybe Xbox hasn't been their go-to console. They have their PlayStation, but now they're getting a Series S as a companion, or they have their Switch and they're getting a Series S. So stuff like that is really cool. And I think that's ultimately going to be Xbox's bigger play here, is getting more people into Xbox's ecosystem. Obviously, if you want a Series X, you're probably a Xbox fan. I think it's safe to say that if you're really waiting on that Series X, that you either just want the best experience possible or you're already invested in the Xbox ecosystem. But the Series S, that's their gateway drug. That's how you get people hooked.
The One S was always the highest selling console, and you just have to wonder, like, the X versus S, there's always going to be like the hardcore will fill that need eventually, and then the rest of the sales will go to the cheaper model. And right now, what we've been talking about is the X has just been restricted to be able to go where it needs to go, and where it needs to be, like all these millions of people that only want the X and they can't get it. And I always say, hey, why don't the retailers just come up with a bot solution? But Target doesn't care. Target sells the console, they get the allotment, they make the sale, and they get the profit margin, and they move on and sell bar stools and blenders. Like, it's a tough thing to ask for. But let's talk about another sale thing that, maybe I wasn't too upset about it, but I did kind of make a big deal about this like last week, is that the Uncharted remaster set on PS5, like, gasp. I'll start with Miles because I think he probably has a thing to say about it. But if you owned all the games, all you had to do was pay $10 to get the remaster.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at Xbox, they take something like Gears 5 and they kind of retool it in Unreal Engine 5. They give you global illumination and they give you a higher frame rate and everything, like better resolution and the improved lighting, and it's absolutely free. Miles, was this something to set at a card table in the park and say, changed my mind?
It's with PlayStation and Sony. It's weird to look at the dynamic we have right now between Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. Sony is a legacy company. It's been around for a long time. They know how to run a successful business. In some areas, they've proven, with a lot of the divisions they've shuttered in recent decades, that maybe they don't know how to adapt to change in some capacity. But when I see stuff like this, these paid upgrades, it reminds me of the old school Sony movie mentality. Is you want that premium experience? We're going to sell you a standard movie ticket. Here you go. That is $8. But if you want that high res, you want the audio, you want all the bells and whistles, that's IMAX, baby. That's going to be $14. And so that's, every time I see this, I just can't help but shake that comparison, especially with Sony's kind of history in film. And I think a lot of that is kind of echoing into their gaming model right now. Obviously, PlayStation has come out and told us that they're basically committed to these $10 upgrades. That is going to be their strategy. I don't think it's the best strategy in this day and age when your competition is offering solutions that are free.
PC and Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are solutions where you get those free upgrades. So it is a weird look, but PlayStation is, again, trying to push that value proposition, trying to push that premium proposition. And there are people who are going to pay the $10. I'm not going to tell you whether or not that's worth it. Ultimately, that's up to you to decide if you want to pay that 10 extra bucks. But other companies have proven that it doesn't have to be that way. And PlayStation is still trying to figure out, how to justify that and how to make money on these games in the way that they want to make money on these games.
Yeah, they've had to kind of set that out there. Like, here's a $10 upgrade, and kind of back away and mute the conversation, because people are complaining, and some people are saying it's only $10, but then sometimes I think, if it's only $10, why charge it? Rand, I want to ask you about it's only $10, and did you key in that the standalone version of Uncharted 4 and the standalone version of Lost Legacy were removed from the PlayStation Store for people to have? There is a way to get into the upgrade a little easier than buying all the games if you don't own them, or buying the full remaster set. So,
well, I mean,
what about the $10 in that?
It's not surprised they removed it, because I believe they removed the original Ghost of Tsushima and the original Death Stranding before the director's cuts, because, like, well, you have a new version of the game coming out. Like, to them, it's just like, who would want to buy Ghost of Tsushima when Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is out, right?
But they left the Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy bundle. You could still buy those two games, but you couldn't buy the standalone one. So, like, if someone says, "Oh, I own all the Uncharted, I want to pay the $10 upgrade."
How much is the bundle compared to the individual? Probably comes down to money.
Yeah, it might have been $30 for the bundle for Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. But if you have someone who's like, well, I own all the Uncharted games, I never bought Lost Legacy, so I'll just go buy Lost Legacy for $10 or $15, whatever it is. I think it was $15 on the store. And then you go to PSN, it's like, nope, you have to buy the bundle. Like,
well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's business. It's what it is. It's just money. It's just business. They're trying to present it as a premium sort of back and pad experience where like Xbox is free and you get all these things, but potentially like, auto HDR and FPS boost and stuff. Sony is more presenting these director's cuts or remasters as like a premium thing where it's like, well, no,
like
you have
tax.
Yeah, so like you have to pay for this because we got DualSense controller feedback. We got all these different things. We got 120 frames. We got 60 frames. So I think it's more presented as that. Like this is the premium experience versus a free one. And that's and honestly, they can get away with it because people are going to pay because they think to themselves, after all, it's only $10, and $10 is not a lot of money to a lot of people. So most people will be looking at it, be like, I'll hand off $10 to get Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy.
But isn't it only $49.99 for this pack, which is amazing value?
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's not $70 to get.
Well, I would hope they would not charge $70 for two PS4 games. But then again, I don't know. I thought PlayStation gamers don't play old games. Isn't that what we always hear?
So they only remastered Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4 is a 5-year-old game at this point, isn't it?
Old games? Boo,
Old games? 5-year-old games? What's going on?
Gross.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things like, if you speak out about it, people think, why are you freaking out? It's like, I'm not freaking out. You want to see me freak out? Try and take Xbox Live to 120 a year. Then you'll hear some freaking out. But this is a
Cole, you didn't even talk about one of the biggest surprises from the NPD results that I thought totally would hit on. And I thought maybe you had it in your notes, but you didn't. Miles, you know what I'm talking about here?
Are we talking about the figures in Japan?
No, I'm talking about NPD. I'm talking about Forza Horizon 5.
Oh, no.
Oh, about the game sales.
About how Forza Horizon 5 set a new Forza franchise launch month sales record, including both Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport titles, while ranking as the 4th best-selling game of November. So basically, the game's given away for free. This is that whole thing of
Game Pass.
Well, nobody's going to buy the game because it's on Game Pass, and yet Forza Horizon 5 is on Game Pass, and it set a launch month franchise record. Sold more than any Forza game, Horizon or Motorsport. So, when Phil's out there saying that sometimes they see examples of games that sell more when they're in Game Pass, well, here's an example of it, Forza Horizon 5. And it's funny because when the game came out, people were sharing those UK charts because sales in the UK were down 80%, right? 80% physical because nobody buys physical anymore, but they use it as proof that somehow people don't buy games on Xbox. So it's down 80%. And then here you have NPD basically saying like, yeah, when you include physical and digital, it set an all-time sales record, even though you can essentially get the game for free. But of course, the same people that share those type of things aren't going to share this. So because it doesn't fit their agenda. It doesn't fit their agenda that actually games sell better when they're on Game Pass. So
yeah, I gotta find that list. Yeah, I remember seeing that. Let's see.
And we knew it was sold well because before
here it is.
Before it released in the Game Pass, it had like almost 2 million players who had paid either $50 or $100. So we knew people were buying it, right?
The things that we like, we grab a wooden sword and a garbage can lid and bang it together and go to war, right? Like when I look at this, Call of Duty Vanguard is at the #1 top 20 video game on all platforms sold. Vanguard, which is being hailed as the least favorite. I tried to be as nice as possible. I went on the show, but in general, I'm a jerk. What can I say? Vanguard is the least favorable Call of Duty in a long time, right, guys? Raise your hand if you agree.
Yes.
And it's number one in the sales. And then Battlefield 2042, which people are like, man, I was really excited about it. Just wasn't hitting right. And it needs a little more time in the oven. It's number 2 in the sales chart. And then Miles, the boy Miles has got his Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl for Nintendo's number 3. And then number 4 was Forza Horizon 5. So it's just crazy when you look at these lists. Miles Morales makes it in there at number 13. And down at the very bottom is the remaster version of Ghost of Tsushima, which was pushed by Games as a Service DLC. And gaming's in a good spot, but I mean, look at those numbers and those games. It's kind of, you got to scratch your head. Like,
that's why we always talk about like taking a second to get outside of our bubble. Because again, like what we talk about on Twitter, what we fight about on Twitter, who we want to literally fight about on Twitter is not the majority. Because we've all complained about how Call of Duty doesn't look interesting. I don't care about Vanguard. I don't think any of us here care about Vanguard, but it's the number 1 selling game. It's the number 1 selling game. And that, as much as it breaks my heart, I guess that's just the world that we live in.
Not only that, Miles, but when you take in the top 10 best-selling games so far of this entire year, 2021, Call of Duty is number 1 and number 2. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is number 1, and Call of Duty Vanguard's number 2.
Yeah, it hurts. It just hurts a little bit, but
I'm like, where are all these people that we're not talking to? They're
not
like
on social media.
Yeah, they're not on Twitter. They're just at home playing Call of Duty, bro.
Yep. They're just getting sweaty and getting Cheeto dust on their Valari pillow. Hey, I should do this here real quick. Valari sent me this. This isn't a commercial, but they were cool enough to send me this pillow, and sometimes it's so funny because it's kind of cool. Like you could put this thing around your waist, and then you could swim out to sea. But I mean, you can't really see it on the show, but you can put this thing and rest your arms, and then like not put stress on your neck. But they were cool enough to send this to me, and people are really enjoying these things, and they're getting comfortable with them. You can put them all kinds of different ways. I got a racing seat over here. And
let's see it. Come on, show us the racing seat, Cole. Show us the racing seat. Come on,
I can show you the racing seat.
Nice and ergonomic with your pillow and that racing seat. All right.
Yeah, like my kid isn't tall enough to reach the pedals the way that I have it set up, and so I put the Valari back there, and that was great. Hold on a second. I don't like to get up here.
Colt's like, you making me move my camera. I had to position. Look at that. Look at that.
Look at that. That's how you play Forza, y'all. Yeah. Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah, and now I have to reset my camera because you guys are.
Hey, you're doing it. You're doing it for everybody in chat. You're doing it for the fans.
This is a service to the viewers.
So
shout out to 950 people in chat. Make sure you guys hit the like button because Cole puts on an amazing show. The videos are always super top notch. 500,000 people have watched him clickbait his Elder Scrolls Fallout 5 Bethesda video.
Rand. Yeah.
A click is a click. Okay.
Hey man, they chose. I should have made some shorts. Yeah, I'm gonna do a video this week with that chair because I set that thing up. I gotta tell you, driving around Mexico in a Koenigsegg Jasko at 263 miles an hour with a stick shift, like in first person mode, it is unbelievable. So I'm gonna make a little video, just kind of show you what that is like, because now with these new consoles, like you can get like a racing simulation thing. And it's actually feels really cool. So we'll get into that. Let me grab a couple of supers. Rand, I love you, man, but
you're the best, Colt.
Let's see. We got Risk It for the Biscuit, my Australian buddy who's in the UK. I think he's Australian. If he's not Australian, he's going to DM me and he's going to punch me. But he says, here we go. Late here. Great show. Chat's awesome. Shout out to the people in the UK who watch XNC, because it is like 1, 2 in the morning. So you're amazing. Checking out the show. He says, Miles Diggity Dompier, Colt 45 Eastwood, best guest on the best show. Night, y'all. Oh, Rand Al Legend, he said. I was going to say, he's got to have a name for Randall Legend. That's a good one. We're gonna have to go with that. Lord Star Killer says, love the open world sandbox for Halo Infinite. Oh my gosh. Jedi Knight Peter with Australian $10 says, good day. X&C's been wanting to show off how awesome I am at Halo. Laughing, crying emojis. Been having a lot
That's
of
a
trouble.
Horrible Australian accent.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad.
Oh, okay. Now is the time of the show where we ask Rand to do a random. I've got a wheel over here. I'll spin it for a random accent, and he has to nail it. And here we go. Now, he says they need to fix the DVR on the Xbox. Is there any advice or any news coming? Yes, Jason Ross said they're working on it. I don't know. It's a carryover from Xbox One. It needs to be fixed. You guys make me so mad now. You throw me off my game. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, Halo. Yeah, we're going to talk about Halo. So it climbed its way up, Miles, to an 87 meta. It's up there with some of the bangers in the last decade. 87 meta.
87 meta. I love these conversations about meta because they either don't matter or they do matter depending on how well you want a game to perform. I am happy to see Halo Infinite come out and 343 Industries come out and stick the landing with Halo Infinite because there was so much drama and anticipation and speculation about what Halo Infinite was going to be or what Halo Infinite wasn't going to be. And it was such a fascinating journey from our gameplay reveal in 2020, where everybody's like, this looks like crap. This Halo's going to be trash, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. To them not talking about campaign in any capacity for a long time. And then the full package is here. Multiplayer's out. Campaign's out. And if you know me, I've been banging the Resident Evil Village drum. I've been smashing that drum. That's the GOAT. That for a long time, Resident Evil Village Game of the Year. I beat that thing 7 times. I haven't beat a game seven times at launch. I don't think ever. I loved Resident Evil Village. And now wrapping up Halo Infinite combined with the multiplayer package. Somehow, despite the odds, despite them taking co-op from me, hurting me, putting a stake straight through my heart by not shipping the game with co-op, Halo Infinite, it's my game of the year, boys. Halo Infinite, I will come out. I said it on Twitter earlier. Halo Infinite, #1. Resident Evil Village, #2. So 343 Industries, you deserve all the praise in the world. I know this development was tough. I know this saga was wild. But you did it. You delivered the most fun Halo that has existed in my eyes. And that is a feat, and they deserve all the props in the world. So that's it. Halo Infinite, my game of the year.
Wow. Miles, you and I talked when I had finished the review and was getting ready to build the review, and I was kind of expressing my concerns. You'd heard some concerns from people that you've been around or worked with and people you've talked to, and Rand probably put a little bug in your ear, but it's kind of nice to see that it turned out to be more than you expected. Rand, our buddy Jason Schreier waited until the game released to kind of tell a nice little redemption story, didn't he? I know people might think of it as a hit piece, but can you kind of get the audience up to speed with what he did with Bloomberg?
Yeah, I mean, he wrote an article about the struggles that Halo Infinite had dev-wise. And I think it was titled something like From Triumph to, or From Tragedy to Triumph or something along those lines. And he basically just ran through the problems that they had. Contractors is a Microsoft problem. They basically can only work on something for 18 months before they have to take a leave, which sucks especially if the person's very talented and they're working on this thing, and then all of a sudden their time is up and now you have to wait a certain amount of time before you can rehire them again
and bring in somebody new.
Yeah. So that was an issue. Also, I think there was an issue with some of the tools, the Faber tool set, which how you make games. Of course, that's a big. If it takes forever to make something in the game, it's going to be a problem. And then, because of it, in 2019, they were like, we're not going to be able to make what we want to make. They cut 2/3 of the story or the game itself and kind of pared down the open world a little bit, because before it was supposed to be this big open world game, like kind of their Breath of the Wild. But anybody who's played it knows it's not as open world as you would expect. The islands are kind of sectioned off from one another.
Mm-hmm.
So they did that, and they talked about.
It's still pretty big. Like when you get up in a wasp, but
when you get up in a wasp,
big.
But
I had this moment before I started the show where I got up in the wasp and I was flying, and like the rocks and the trees look pretty decent. You know, sometimes they look a little iffy, other times they look pretty great. Just depends on the lighting, right? Because it's all baked in right now. But I had this moment where I'm like, how big is this compared to Red Dead's map? Because Red Dead looks incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How big is that? Like, have you guys thought about that or taken a gander guess?
It's a much smaller slice, I would say. I mean, obviously Red Dead's slower, and you don't have a wasp that you can fly around with, so they didn't have to take that into consideration. But you can definitely tell on the edges of the map, there are things in the distance that look like things that maybe were intended to be there when the game shipped. Some of the edges of the map just literally look like they're cut off. So you can tell, like, you know, as much as I love the game, I could tell that there were segments of the game that were cut to make this launch in the time frame that they wanted to.
Even with a delay,
Yeah, so that was my biggest gripe, is that as much as this open world is compelling to look at, you can just tell that this is the foundation of something that's going to be great years down the road. Because, like Rand said, according to this article, they had to cut 2/3 of the game. That's a huge chunk of this open world. So
yeah,
I will be curious to see, you know, if I assume they're going to add additional biomes. I'm obviously not going to go into spoilers, but you know, they've set a foundation for the Halo Infinite journey, and I'm curious to see what that ends up being.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I'll ask Rand first. I feel like Rand and I've had this conversation over the phone or on chat. How soon do you suppose we will get the next campaign expansion, and what do you expect from it?
See, part of me thinks like a year from now, so like November of 2022, we'll see the next campaign expansion. But then I realized, like, oh wait, well, co-op's still another 6 months out, and then Forge is another 3 months out from that. So I don't know. I feel like maybe 2 years. You get some sort of Gears Hivebusters expansion that's a little bit more lengthy. I don't know. Like, it would be great if they could do it Destiny style, where like every year you get like a big a story expansion. Because when you beat the game, there is a sequel hook, 100%. It's just the question is, how fast can they do it? And I don't know. We don't know their plans. So maybe they have a plan for every year, but I'm just kind of thinking, like, to me right now, I'm thinking like 2 years. I'm thinking like holiday 2023 is when we'll get, like, you know, Chief goes and does another thing for another.
When all the huge games come out too.
8 hours. Yeah, I don't know. And Miles, do you think we will be playing it a year from now, or you think 2 years like me? Like, what are your thoughts?
Halo Infinite : something. I'm thinking that I could see a world down the road where there is that kind of Destiny model, where every year we get some sort of big noteworthy campaign expansion of some kind. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. But as you've talked about, and as we've seen with season 1, they had to extend season 1 from 3 months to 6 months. They had to push the co-op delay back 6 months. Forge is now going to be roughly 9 months if they get back on track with season 2. So it seems like the first year, more or less, is I'm kind of writing that off in terms of campaign expansion. So I'm kind of on the same page. I think 2 years will be our first one, and then from there, I would love to see them on track to do 1. Because again, not going into spoilers, but there's some stories, some you know, iconic Halo characters I want to see them explore some more in this story. But I do think it'll probably take 2 years before we get that big noteworthy drop.
Yeah, we would have heard about it by now if that was like in the plans for next.
Well, the trademark did appear. Halo : something, as Miles said. And I don't know if that means it's coming this year, but they definitely trademarked it.
Let's talk location though, guys. Where are we going to another section of the ring? We didn't really get to go out in space. Like, are we going to see like a jungle part of the ring? Are we going to see a desert? What's your prediction?
Oh, you're using that word biome.
Absolutely. There's biomes have been in every Halo game. You know, you go to a different type of area that looks different, and I can just see it now. Like, what's your prediction, Rand?
Well, I mean, like, there's no reason to reuse places we've been already, so I would hope that we do go to some new place on the other side of the ring
with
where
crystals.
It looks different. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Personally, yeah, a jungle one sounds cool. Get a little crisis action going on or something like that.
Now we're talking.
That'd be
Miles?
interesting.
Yeah, I would love a change of scenery. I mean, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so I got some nostalgia kind of. Obviously, the main biome of this game is heavily inspired by the Pacific Northwest. But that being said, it's the only one we see pretty much the entire game. So I would love some variety. I would love to go somewhere that looks distinct and different. When I go here, I know that there's going to be different enemies or different things I need to worry about. And obviously a jungle would be great. I think a desert is in the realm of possibility. Give me a gross swamp. I'll take anything. Really. I'm not at this point. I'll take anything. And
I feel like we're on like 1/4 of the ring, or maybe an eighth. It's kind of hard to tell with the scale. So it seems like that 343 can look at this and say, all right, here's our plan. We're going to split the ring into 4 sections, and we're going to go here, and then here, and then here, and then there. Like, I think that's cool. And if they kind of like, that would be cool to like, we're going to do an expansion, a story, an 8 to 10 hour campaign expansion in a couple of years. And the focus is it's on a more desert style part of the ring, maybe with some environmental hazards. Like, they can do some great things. The cool thing about this RAM, when you're talking about they got to finish the seasons before they get into the next expansion, the foundation's already built. So all they have to do is just pretty it up, build the experiences. And that means we don't have to wait many years for the next expansion. Right. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Let's talk about, I was going to talk about how we played the game, but like, we've all kind of covered it quite a bit, and I'm on my second playthrough, and surprisingly enjoying it even more the second time. So you can see why it's been so hot. Let's talk about the Game of the Year award show. I want to cover some of the things that kind of flew under the radar, but they started it off in the pre-show with Tunic, which is coming out in March 16th.
Yeah, March 16th.
March. I have a feeling that Miles and Rand are like going to enjoy a game like that. That's a punishing game. What does this remind you of that you loved recently?
I mean,
Miles, go ahead.
If you've played the demo, yes, there are some Dark Souls compared. This is the Dark Souls of isometric Zelda like.
Isn't it the Death's Door of Fox games though?
Yeah.
See some.
No, this is the Dark Souls.
Well, Death's Door was the first Dark Souls of isometric Zelda likes.
Right.
And but Tunic was announced first, so it Death's Door swoop under and kind of stole some of the thunder, I think, from Tunic
because they were ready, but there are similarities, right?
Yeah, Tunic is the first time it was revealed forever ago. It's been so long. I was ready. Like, I wanted to play that game. I wanted to explore that world. I've played a little bit. There's been a couple demos on the Xbox store through the ID at Xbox showcase. I'm ready for this thing just to be out. I just want to play it. I spent about half an hour with the demo, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I've seen enough. I just want to play it now because I know what to expect. So, yeah, Tunic, let's go. Finally, 5 years? Was it announced 5 years ago?
It's been a long time. I expected it to be coming a long time ago, but yeah, Tunic looks cool. May I bring up a multi-plat real quick, Rand? Is that okay?
I mean, it's your show. It's your show. You can bring up whatever you want.
I was super excited about Evil West, who's made by Flying Wild Hogs, the team that made Shadow Warrior 1 and 2, and I can't remember what else they made. But you get this like Devil May Cry, like cyber western third-person action game. Did you guys get a look at this?
Yeah. Did you guys play The Surge at all?
No, I did not play The Surge.
I played a little bit of Surge. Surge is very difficult.
The gameplay of that, again, we haven't seen too much of it in action, but the kind of steampunk Wild West vibe, it reminded me a lot of The Surge, which was published by Focus as well. but I love the steampunk Old West kind of Van Helsing vibe of that. It's something that would have existed on like original Xbox and PS2, like that era of gaming that we haven't seen in a long time. So seeing that was really cool, and I'm excited to see a weird kind of campy take on that setting.
Yeah, there was a bunch of multiplats I got excited about, but there's an exclusive that a little indie, and I don't know if this is something that Rand is excited about, but it's a cell shaded kind of whimsical looking Planet of Lana. Looks like it's a side scroller. Rand, do you know much about this studio and the deal that went on with this to come to Xbox?
I mean, I would imagine it's kind of like any other deals for Game Pass, but it looks really cool. I'm really looking forward to playing it whenever it does. Was it supposed to be next year, right? 2022, or is it 2023? I forget.
I don't know if I noted when it was coming out.
I think we just got a 2022 splash screen, but no
2022.
Window.
Yeah, who knows when? But I'll definitely be playing it day one.
So it was funny because the show kind of starts with a couple of whimsical, Tunic looks like this neat little like Legend of Zelda Fox game. Then you got this Planet of Lana, this like small childlike character, going across the desert, and then Jeff Keighley's like, "Hold on to your Giuseppes. This is real gameplay, Xbox." Remember he was wearing his Giuseppes.
When they sent this to me, I could not believe it was actual gameplay.
Yep. He's like, when they sent this to me, it was disguised as a different trailer because they didn't want me to leak it. Here, no. I think Jeff did a great job of the show. Super long, but cool. But he showed Hellblade 2, and I think people went, right? So, Randolph Thor, you've had expectations for Hellblade. Take us to the moment when that trailer's booted up for you, and you were doing your nails watching this.
I mean, I think I've said previously, outside of Halo Infinite, my most anticipated Xbox game is Hellblade 2. I adored the first game. I played it twice. I played it on because there are some people out there who didn't play it when it came to PlayStation and were like poo-pooing it, and then suddenly Xbox bought Ninja Theory, and they're like, "Yeah, oh my god!" And it's just like, "Yeah, you're frauds." So I'm very interested in seeing where they take the story, because like the end of the first game is very much like closed. Like they told a complete story. So seeing Senua on the beach with a bunch of people that are following her is super interesting, because it's like, okay, she was shunned in the first game, and now she seems like she's a leader of other warriors. So I'm definitely interested in finding out the backstory of that. But for the trailer itself, it definitely, there's this discussion that happening because people couldn't believe that it was actual gameplay, and they were like, that looks too good to be true. And I mean, I could see why, because it didn't really look like there was a lot of player agency. Like when she was kind of sneaking, okay, that looks like cutscene. But then when she was running away from the troll, that definitely looked like gameplay. Although even when she
you probably need to go that way. Yeah.
Well, like you took the spear and she threw it. She didn't even really aim it like a person would. Like you grab that and then you would try to aim it or whatever. But I could definitely tell it was gameplay. And it was really interesting seeing like the different animations and the transitions from cutscene to gameplay. And it seems like maybe that's what they're really focusing on, because Jeff kind of introduced it as like the next generation of cinematic gameplay. So it definitely seemed like that's what they're going for. And
you could see that camera jerk, like when you get the controls back, because the camera would swing around and then give you control back. And normally the letterbox comes in and out in moments like that, but it was all letterbox. So that was all seamless. But you could definitely tell when the camera kind of does like a little shift because it's back in control. But so I was really impressed by what I saw. I can't wait to find out, everything that's going on in the game. What I did really want to see was combat. Because combat was I would say on the mediocre end in the first game. It definitely wasn't. I mean, the first game was built by like 20 people on a $10 million budget.
It was indie as hell, but it looked incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And it had this really engaging story, really touching emotional journey. But a lot of the game was walking, solve puzzle, fight some enemies, rinse and repeat. Now, I love that sort of stuff. Like, as long if you're telling me a good story, like, I'm engaged. I don't really need that much more. But now they're acquired by Microsoft. We've seen Psychonauts 2 step up, Double Fine step up their game with Psychonauts 2. We've seen how Playground stepped up their game with Forza, how 343, like, we've seen these improvements from these studios, and I want to see the big improvement from Hellblade. So part of me wants to, like, okay, I want to see how this combat is going to be improved. Like, but, I understand the game's still a couple years away, 2023, so there's plenty of time to see something like that in the next showing of the title. But yeah, my hype level is still 10 out of 10. And I cannot wait to see more of Hellblade 2, hopefully at E3. Yeah, Miles, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the trailer obviously visually was incredibly impressive. There were a lot of conversations when the first reveal trailer happened, and they were specific, and they were focused on that in-engine. They wanted you to know that this was in-engine footage that they had for Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. And we saw it, and the visual fidelity was, more impressive than anything we had seen at that point. So a lot of people, naturally were saying that this is going to look worse when it ships. There's no way that this is gameplay. This is all pre-rendered. And, I mean, those, based on what we know of game development, those are fair criticisms, I think, because we can say, the trailer was letterbox. It was also 24 frames per second, blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of concessions that went into making sure that this looked really, really good visually. And then what we saw at the Game Awards kind of gave us an expanded look at that. Obviously, this was in-engine. It was a mix of these cinematic moments with little bursts of gameplay. But what really impressed me about this entire showcase, like you touched on, Colt, and like Jeff stressed, how cinematic it was. The motion capture, the best motion capture that I've seen in a game. When you look at their faces, when you look at Senua's face and you see her mouth move, and you can see the reflection of light off of her gums.
Looks like a TV series or a movie. Like, yeah,
we've seen good motion capture. We've definitely seen really good motion capture, and there's been moments where it's this uncanny valley where it's almost right. It's almost human. And what we saw with Senua's Saga, that was the best motion capture that I've seen. That was spot on. Again, like Rand said, we didn't really get a good taste of what combat's going to look like. I felt the spear throwing bits were a little, I don't want to say janky because that seems harsher than I want it to be, but a little bit jarring when you're running from the troll, grabbing the spear, turning around, throwing it. I that felt a little bit off to me in what we saw. But
that's what I was trying to say. Like, if you're watching really closely, you can tell that the person is taking control, who's playing the demo to create the trailer. Like, you can definitely tell because it is seamless. It's like God of War, like Halo Infinite, where the camera's always with you and it never stops or fades out for a cutscene. And the game will look in cinematic as great as it'll look in gameplay. I think what was missing, Miles, was they showed this amazing approach cinematic into the cave, and she turns and runs and throws the spears. And then she gets back to like the place where they started their assault, and just a little bit of swordplay would have been perfect. But I think people have every right to feel like 2 years ago in 2019, you showed us this cinematic chant and a couple of soldiers walking into a battle and nothing happened, right? And it was all in engine and it looks incredible. And then 2 years later, you show us almost really no combat because we already know that Molina has been training with the Star Wars combat. What do you call him? Like the
choreographer,
choreographer, where he's worked with Star Wars and other movies on real sword combat that's really grounded in historical fighting. And she's spent all this time getting into shape. And so, like Rand says, the combat in Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was mediocre, or it was just, it was there.
It did its
because
job.
Before it was, Yeah, it was like parry / parry, right? And now we know that there'll be I don't know my sword terms. Maybe Miles can help me out. Like she's got like sword thrust, slash, blocks, and all kinds of stuff that'll be built in the game. So there's massive potential for combat, and Ninja Theory is not ready to show that yet. So
yeah, I mean, to be honest, when we had heard rumblings that Hellblade 2 was going to be shown, I wasn't sure what that would look like. I was expecting, if I'm being frank, less gameplay than we saw here, because a few months ago, shortly after E3, they told us that the game has a ways to go. That they are in active development, but they still have a good chunk of active development left. So when I heard we were going to see gameplay, I was really curious to see what that would look like. And I thought this, as much as people have their concerns about combat, where I think this shined was showing the world and the scale. Because the beach segment that we saw, that was way bigger than most of the environments we had seen in the original Hellblade.
Sure.
Seeing that disgusting giant slithering from the water into the cave, it made me really excited, because I know they're going all in when it comes to delivering something dark and weird and
uncomfortable.
Exactly. Which we got bits of that in the original Hellblade, and I wanted to see that expanded on more. And this trailer gave me exactly that. Seeing the people running and screaming on fire, those moments of just intense action and dread. There was almost this flare of horror to this segment, and
very mature.
I love a good horror experience. So I was excited. As much as I wanted to see sword fighting, I was still very excited by what we saw here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Ninja Theory knows what they're doing. We've seen what they can do. Somebody said in the chat, Alvin said, sword play with who? The giant? Which, it's true, but like I don't know. Maybe they could have shown something, but like it could be drip feed for hype. But I said something kind of messy in the moment while I was watching the show, and I really meant it though. And I usually don't say things unless I mean it. I don't really troll people, but I did say that night that Hellblade 2 made God of War Ragnarok look like a video game. And I know it sounds super rude, but I really mean it. Like, God of War is one of the best looking games that we've seen in several years on console. It looks incredible, but it is very much a video game, because as soon as Hellblade's trailer rolled up in the Game of the Year, I thought, this looks like a really great like series that you'd watch on Paramount or HBO. Like, it looked crazy. It did not look like a video game whatsoever. And this is where you get the where people say it doesn't look next gen. Next gen has nothing to do with it, but now you finally have the power where you can make a game seamlessly look like it's always looking realistic. So people are pretty excited. A shout out to Kylo Ken with the $5 says, Colt, when Wonder Woman was introduced to the TGAs, there were no platforms listed. Any chance Microsoft is talking to WB about any sort of exclusivity, aka Xbox grabbing some of that DC goodness? Ren, you and I've talked about this at length, because Wonder Woman was showed made by Monolith, and if you're a fan of Shadow of Mordor, you know that Monolith could make an excellent Wonder Woman game. Ren, what is going to happen with Wonder Woman when it comes out in a couple of years or 3 years, whatever?
Yeah, I noticed that with the trailer, as well as the Star Wars Eclipse one, that they didn't have any platforms mentioned, and that the Wonder Woman trailer isn't up on PlayStation or Xbox's YouTube channel because there's no platforms mentioned. I don't know how much of that is just par for the course, business as usual type of thing,
or no business as usual yet, right?
Like, so I don't know if this really means, like, this could mean a lot, or maybe this means absolutely nothing. I don't know, but it was something I picked up on. Mm-hmm. Warner Brothers has been in talks about acquisitions, and if you're in talks about acquisitions, somebody might be like, yeah, you please don't announce this game for other platforms yet.
Yikes.
You know what I mean? Like, that's maybe possible, but I don't know. Like, I don't really know what to think here. Miles, you're tuned in. You know the grub.
I would say when games are revealed a ways out, oftentimes we don't see platforms associated to it. So obviously we can have some fun. We can put on the tinfoil hats. We can
go to Speculation Town.
We can go to Speculation Town and say, WB owns DC. There's been talks that DC or WB could be acquired by Microsoft. There's been a vocal outcry from the Xbox community for Xbox to have an answer to PlayStation's Marvel agenda. But I think realistically, they probably literally don't know what platforms it's going to be on. They're probably working on the game, trying to decide if it's going to be maybe on previous gen as well or only next gen. And that's why we just saw the reveal.
But Miles, if we put on our tinfoil jacket to go with our hats, Xbox and Monolith have worked together quite a bit. I remember in 2017, Phil Spencer saying that Monolith Studios is literally right down the road, and he would stop in and check on Shadow War. Am I correct in that retelling of the story, Randall Thor 19? Do you remember that?
I actually don't remember that.
I remember that very well because the Xbox One X was about to come out. I was really looking forward to Shadow War, and it was going to be enhanced on the new Xbox Scorpio. And Phil said that they're literally down the road, and they're checking in with them, and they really made sure that the Xbox version was, it ran at near full 4K, and the PlayStation Pro version ran at like half of that. It was one of those things that kind of went for a while. But yeah, as somebody mentioned in the chat, I think it was, I just replied to him. Life Supremacy says that Monolith Productions and Xbox have history together. They've done marketing for, I don't know what other games besides Shadow of War, but it does seem like DC, Monolith, and Xbox. I mean, there's no platform. You're just getting started. It's like, can you put out the candle circle, Miles? And can you what's it called? The that you do on Twitter?
The summoning circle. Those are reserved for special things. All right.
Well, right. You're going to summon. No, I'm just kidding.
I would love to see. With great power comes great responsibility, Colt. We can't just be willy-nilly.
I know
with
all
these
your candles
circles,
are relegated to Souls games and Pokemon coming to the Xbox.
I got my candles laid out for a few other things right now. Okay. I get why people want it. And let's, quite frankly, I will play any game that gives me a whip. So let's go. I will play Wonder Woman Day 1. Darksiders 3, quick shout out to that if you haven't played it. Excellent game with the whip.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I get it. And I think a lot of the speculation right now is that Xbox fans just want that superhero banger, dude. They just want that clap back to Venom in Spider-Man 2. But we'll have to wait and see. I'll have to wait and
grab
see.
that DC thing. Like, it actually makes sense for Marvel, PlayStation, DC, Xbox come together.
Let's just keep these wars going on every front. Let's
Yep. I mean, there's just so many things. One of the other things that I didn't give a crap about was Suicide Squad, but it had an excellent showing at the Game Awards. So you can't talk me out of it. I'm excited to play it. It looks like it looks crazy. I don't even know what it looks like. Rand, what does it remind you of?
I mean, it's got some of that Sunset Overdrive vibe to it.
Yeah, it sure does.
I really wanted to see how Rocksteady, who I love, right? I love their Batman games. Like, okay, let's do a game where we're playing 4 anti-heroes, 4 villains, but no melee combat. It's just guns, which is so weird, a change of pace from their normal melee combat in the Batman games. And judging from it, it's like, wow, that looks like it might be a lot of fun. I don't know. Rocksteady, in my opinion, is one of the top tier devs, and it's just really disappointing that we haven't gotten a new game from them in basically 7 years, right? Like they did Batman Arkham Knight in 2015. And this is their next game. It's been 7 years.
Damn, it has been.
They made like the first great Batman, like first truly great Batman game since the NES Batman game, right? So they can make it. So when we look at Suicide Squad, for me, I'm like, what, they got Shark Dude, and it's like I'm like, I don't really know a lot about that, but I just know that Rocksteady makes great stuff. So that's a multi-plat, and I think it comes out 2022.
Yes, that and Gotham Knights, I believe, are 2022.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna be comic booked out. Let's see. We got Mo B. This one's from a while ago, but he says, got Colt, Rand, and Miles on the show. It's going to be a great show. Everybody hit the like button, show some love. Let's see. We're at 500 likes, so you guys are incredible. Let me grab a couple of these. Hargeet Johnny with a $5 says, so as I talked to Hargeet on Xbox Live, totally chill, cool guy. A little messy in the supers, but I like it. We live for it. He says, so when do we get a second job messaging from PlayStation again? PlayStation is for the payers. Pay happens here. He's having some laughs. It's okay. Take it easy. He'll be okay. He's a good guy. Fazel Ishan with the Canadian $2.79 says, loving the Xbox podcast universe crossovers fire panel. Yeah, it helps that these guys are good friends. That's amazing that I can ask them to, spend some time in their evening to talk shop with me. These guys are incredible. Lord Star Killer with the $10 says PlayStation needs to stop the paid upgrades. They won't. Just be more gamer friendly and include game upgrades for free. Let's start gouging gamers for 4K gaming for only $10. I will say that the devs need to be paid for their work. Like when you go back and you retool things and you do some upgrades and you add the 3D sound, all those things, like that takes time. And the studio has to make a decision if they're going to just kind of work that into their budget or if they're going to make some money back. And apparently PlayStation has decided with some of the other big developers, they're going to get their money back. Sleeping Vistas with the Australian $5 says Planet of Lana must be Keely's favorite as it's featured on his Summer Fest this year. I don't remember seeing it before. Did you guys?
Yeah, that was revealed earlier this year.
Oh, yeah, it was new to me. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Lord Starkill with the $5 says Hellblade 2 gameplay was absolutely fire, along with the Matrix Unreal Engine tech demo, which I still haven't loaded up. Miles, did you load up your little Matrix experience?
Only briefly. I need to sit down, and I've just been sucked into Halo. So I downloaded it, booted it up, and then immediately started playing Halo again. So I need to spend some more time with it because it's the screenshots I've been seeing. My God, dude!
I know. Well,
the cars, the mailboxes, the reflections. It's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Unreal Engine's the real deal. We're just getting out of this cross-gen here in a little bit. So Jeff Garcia, thank you for the $2 says, what about the gunk? No one seems to talk about the gunk. And I asked Rand about this in party chat the other night. Rand, what are you expecting from the gunk? It comes out on the 16th. It comes out in about a week from now.
I mean, like 2 days from now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Today's the 13th. Yeah, 3 days from now. 2 days.
Embargoes tomorrow, maybe?
I think the first
Metacritic party! No, I'm just kidding.
I think they put up, you can go find some channels that put up like the first 30 minutes of footage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wonder, it's one of those games I've kind of looked at like, well, it might be interesting. Maybe it's not my thing, but it may, I don't know. Who knows? I think
it's going to be a banger. I think it's going to be another Xbox banger to wrap the year out. Because
Miles, give us your Metacritic prediction. You
God,
anti-Metacritic dude.
The gunk 86.
Oh my gosh,
86.
Okay.
Sitting on this show. No, I did Jay Fonzarelli's show, and right before Halo came out, he said, "Yeah, I don't know." And I said, "What's your Metacritic prediction?" He goes, "I think it's going to be an 80." And my face was like, and he gave me the hiccups. I kind of like sucked. Then I got the hiccups. I'm like, 80? He goes, "Yeah, I've just been hearing from other people." And then 2 days later, it did a lot better. So you never know. Kate Forever, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. It says, anyone else invest in Focus Entertainment after the VGA Plague's Tale, which is coming to Game Pass? Requiem. It's coming to Game Pass day one. Evil West, rumored to come to Game Pass? I think, or is it Game Pass? Do you guys remember?
Definitely not confirmed for Game Pass.
Okay. Yeah. Warhammer Space Marines 2, which has people getting giddy. It's been like 10 years since that game was out, released. All from external teams, none of their own, which means more games yet to be announced. And he says, Phil, get on it, my guy. So he's hoping that all these huge multi-plats come to Game Pass. We'll see. One more. X Burke with the Canadian $10 says, I recommend everyone watch the new Xbox holiday video series out today. It's a great way. Xbox owned up to the troubles of the past and finally put them behind them. PS, great panel. Colt, yes. Rand, and Miles. We are we got a couple more things to cover, and let's see what we have here. We've got, I just covered Plague Tale. Crossfire is finally coming in February. Yeah,
that's
cool.
That's a call that somebody made that they should not have made. February, as we know, is
but it's
ridiculously stacked.
But it's before
it's the
Elden
10th.
Ring, though, Miles. It's the 10th.
When's Elden Ring?
But
When's
we have
Elden Ring?
Horizon.
Miles, do you even know when Elden Ring releases?
Yeah, it's the last week of February, the 26th. I want to say
I
whatever
thought
that
is. I thought it was the 24th, but you're right. It might be the 26th.
Something like that. But
okay,
74 days. It's 74 days away. I know that. So do the math there.
You got that keyed in real nice. Yeah.
Why? In
well, it's supposed to come out this holiday, and they weren't ready yet. But Rand, you're a Remedy fan, right?
Yes, I am.
But like, are you excited about a Call of Duty style Remedy first person campaign?
Sure, 100%. I'll be playing Crossfire X. I want to play through that campaign. It does kind of give me like Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare kind of vibes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll play anything.
I know the shooting's good.
Makes. Yeah,
I know the first person shooting's good. I played the demo. The multiplayer demo.
Yeah,
and the
that's
shooting
the multiplayer. There's nothing to do with the campaign, Colt.
But, you know, it's going to be using the same mechanics for shooting. So if you're worried about how it feels to have Remedy behind the buttstock of a gun instead of running around hitting newspapers.
Is it the same engine, though? I don't even know if it's the same engine, because I think it's
got to be
two completely different teams for multiplayer and campaign.
It's got to be the same engine, because you've got to be able to jump back and forth and have some of the same mechanics.
Doesn't have to be.
Doom 2016, baby.
Yeah, Colt. Come on.
Prime
those
example.
Different engines.
They were.
What? I didn't know that.
I think Doom's multiplayer wasn't Doom's multiplayer Unreal, and then the campaign was
because you had to like load a separate instance with Doom 2016. Like you had to load a different video game menu screen to be able to play.
That's psychosis, dude. Yeah. Because the gameplay feels almost the same. That's crazy. I don't know. Yeah. Well,
the tinfoil.
So maybe the campaign feels nothing like the multiplayer, Colt.
Maybe it doesn't. Well, now we have to wonder if Remedy will be able to do a first-person shooter the way we want. Yeah. Let's see, one more Game Awards thing, because we've got one more topic about a supposed new studio working on a AAA Xbox game I'll get to in a minute. But I got to ask you guys, because I know this concerns you. Psychonauts 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart completely snubbed at the Game Awards. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it now.
Ratchet 0 awards.
Damn.
0. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Ratchet.
Why gotta be like
Clank
that, Rand?
Snubbed apart, and Psychonauts nothing.
Psychonaut awarded.
So there you go. Leave it to Miles to come up with a banger. I'll start with Rand. Rand and I've talked about Psychonauts, but I'll talk about Rift Apart. We both played it. We both have about the same opinion. So were you expecting Ratchet to come away with a couple of awards, maybe Game of the Year?
I mean, I thought it would win something, but it didn't win anything. And I'm like, yeah, that's about right for that game.
It looks so incredible. Like you step out and the sky is alive with ships and battles, and the world just looks incredible in every different level, but it didn't win art direction. It didn't win I don't know, it just didn't win anything. I don't know.
Well, Returnal won, and it deserved it. Returnal's the better PlayStation exclusive for 2021. Yeah, I am.
You are on record, yes.
I am very much not a fan of Ratchet and Clank, and I thought it was just an okay game. I didn't think it was anything spectacular. Mm-hmm. So I was disappointed when it was nominated for Game of the Year over Returnal. So yeah, it didn't win any awards because I was.
Do you think the difficulty, the level, or the accessibility of Returnal kind of kept that panel of 103 judges from playing through it and enjoying it and say, oh, that was a great challenge? Maybe they got into it like I did, and like, I die a lot.
I think maybe it's just like they liked other games, but Psychonauts 2 getting robbed, like
Yeah,
didn't win
take it,
best art
Miles.
direction, didn't best narrative, like game of the
So
year,
good.
like best game design. It's just like, whoa.
It really deserved art direction. Those levels are incredible. Miles, I got to hear your take on this. I really like Psychonauts.
Yeah, it would have been great to see Psychonauts win something because it was nominated for so many categories. It was incredible to see this kind of unanimous praise for Psychonauts 2 and to see Double Fine come out with their first big release under Xbox Game Studios and have it, live up to decades of hype, decades of anticipation. Psychonauts, the original, obviously a cult classic. But yeah, I was a little bummed to see that it didn't win a single one. Art direction would have been cool. I'm going to upset some Xbox fans, I think, when I say that I liked It Takes Two a lot more than I liked Psychonauts 2. So
I did too.
I
really like Psychonauts too.
Me
but
too.
It Takes Two did it all better. Yeah.
I don't have any complaints about Psychonauts 2.
Were you super happy when Joseph Ferris got the award for game of the? I was
him come up with his T-shirt, just like totally. He was not. I think, like all of us, he was expecting Deathloop to win. I think he was just lounging back. He was there because he was nominated, but he was in a T-shirt. That dude was not expecting to win anything. And then
I was so happy
to see him come out on stage. I was a little bummed that he didn't go ham with his speech, but he was obviously stoked, and that team was obviously stoked. And It Takes Two is a phenomenal game. Psychonauts 2 really also incredible. I just personally liked everything about It Takes Two a little bit more. So that's where I'm at. I wish it won something, but also I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. They were really good games. Yeah. It was cool to see. I don't know. Psychonauts 2 was so great, but they did get snubbed. But that's how the panel goes. But Halo won the Player's Voice Award, and that's so crazy. It's so crazy in a world where we talked a lot today about how we think that Twitter or Reset Era, wherever you check out your Reddit, we think like that's the whole world. And out there in the world, I think that there's more PlayStation fans than Xbox fans. But Halo Infinite got cranked way up on the votes.
You guys,
all the people.
Speaking of Halo Infinite, you guys seen the little videos, little shorts of like the grunt dialogue in the game and how incredible and varied the dialogue is? I just saw one on Twitter where a grunt kills Master Chief and goes, "Who's Craig? Who's Craig now?"
No way. Yeah, I've had some really good ones. It's just laugh out loud moments. That game. I hijacked a Banshee that they blew up my Wasp, and I got out of the Wasp in the air, hijacked the Banshee with the grapple shot, and the elite said, he said like, "Oh no, you don't!" And as I kicked him out, he's like, "You'll pay for this!" As he falls out, and it's just they had a good time with that. I mean, that stuff helps, man. One last thing is this Snowden Studios. You got these people who scrub LinkedIn looking for like any guy, like Larry, what's his name, working on some game. Some guy from Snowden Studios is working on an unannounced AAA game. Rand, did you put on little sharp binoculars and check into this and find out an answer? What is this unannounced AAA game that's coming to Xbox?
Knows? I don't know. Miles, do you know?
Look, I have no idea.
Okay, so I looked into it, and this Snowden Studios has worked on a bunch of games. What a great name
for a studio, too. Fills me with confidence.
Right. But I think it's so funny the way that people, I'm going to pull this up, the way that people look at these things, because they wonder, what could they be making? What have they worked on previously? And funny enough is they've worked on We Happy Few. As a support studio. They've also worked on the director's cut of Deus Ex, Human Revolution, Dead by Daylight. Let me grab a couple more. Shadow of Mordor, and I'm just looking at recent games. Something for Wildcrats. Anyway, we see stuff like this a lot, and I think this might be a situation where maybe a team called Snowden Studios is helping Compulsion. If they worked on We Happy Few, maybe they're helping Compulsion with assets or support for their next big AAA dark fantasy game, right, Rand? Like that could be possible that we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be. Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
I don't know what else to say. I have no idea
that is a possibility. Yeah.
Yes, Cole. It could be. Maybe they're working on something else. Who knows? Never heard of the studio before today. Before 2 minutes ago.
It's so funny, but as everyone talks about acquisitions, PlayStation just brought on Valkyrie Studios. They've collected 6 studios this year, while Xbox has collected none.
Well, technically, the Bethesda deal went through this year, so
so it's just kind of technicalities, schmecticalities. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but this is these are some of the things we're going to see, and I think every studio works with someone else or brings some help on at some point. We've got Librarius McGee with a $10 says, "Do you guys think it'll come down to art direction for next gen games to determine if a game looks better than the other, since graphics are getting absurdly real now?" There was a bunch of people fighting on the Twitter.coms, Miles, about how Horizon Forbidden West looks like the Flintstones on Cartoon Network next to Hellblade. Did you were you able to sweep this out of the way?
I saw some little nuggets of it, Colt. I did, unfortunately.
Little chicken nuggets.
The discourse on Twitter.com about Hellblade versus Horizon. And I gotta say, it is some of the most disingenuous conversations I've seen online.
What? On Twitter?
People need to understand that a difference in art style, a stylistic choice, does not mean that one game looks inherently better or worse than another. Anytime you talk about any game looking good, there is some clown on Twitter who says Uncharted 4 looks better. No matter what it is. It could be a cell shaded game. It could be
The Last of Us Part
pixel
2,
art game. Somebody's telling me the Uncharted 4 looks better. And it drives me absolutely bananas because, like the Super Chat mentions, stylistic choice is going to be a huge differentiator. If every single game had super hyper realistic graphics, that would be incredibly boring, in my opinion. If every game was hyper realistic, they would look all the games would look the same, and there would be no style or substance to any of these. It's cool when a game does, and it's cool when they have it and they nail it. But I don't want to live in a world where every game looks like Uncharted 4, Colt. I just don't.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to live in a world where every game looks like Call of Duty, and those games look really great. They always look pretty, really good. But, Sweeping Vistas with an Australian 2 says, Colt disappointed that Artful Escape didn't win. That's another game that just has really beautiful and looks nothing like reality, looks nothing like a AA or AAA banger that looks realistic or tries to strive to look stylistically realistic like Horizon Forbidden West does. But yeah, I mean, that game got snubbed, but it was kind of an interesting, I really loved it. But it really comes down to who cares? Like Red Dead Redemption looks incredible. It's one of my favorite games that year. It looks way better than Spider-Man, but I really love Spider-Man just as much. It's just, I don't know. Mo B with the $5 says, Colt, when do you think we'll see more of Redfall? We'll close out here. Let's talk about Redfall. That's one of the, I think it's one of the first party games we'll see next. Am I right, Randall Thor 19?
What do you mean?
Is Redfall the next first party exclusive that comes out?
Presumably it's the next one. I guess maybe Grounded could fully release before it or whatever.
Redfall.
It'd probably be Redfall. Forza Motorsport, I think, is set for next year too. Hopefully, and then Starfield, maybe
September,
As
October,
Dusk Falls
November
from Global Publishing might release. So
which one? Dusk Falls? Yeah.
As Dusk Falls. I'm kind of curious because if we think they're doing E3 same time as they always do in June, and Redfall comes out in, say, September, is that really going to be the first time we see Redfall gameplay with it then coming out 2 months later, essentially?
It seems like a game that they'd want to let us test it too.
Do we think they could just do some sort of YouTube trailer beginning in, saying like March, where it's like, here's Redfall and there's some trailer out for it, and then you see it again at E3? I don't know. I'm kind of Miles, what do you think? Do you like, with it being so like supposedly summer, which could be either June, July, August, September. Well, July, August, September. If you show it off in June for the first time where people see gameplay, is that too late?
I think it's a little late because we've already seen leaks of people playtesting this game. So there's playable builds floating around. So ahead of the Game Awards, I was kind of thinking maybe we could see it there because it is coming out in summer and there would be this huge gap where there are no events. And like you said, is Microsoft really going to wait until E3 to be like, hey, here's gameplay for Redfall and you can play it in like 2 months, which
they do wait on gameplay reveals almost always, don't they?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I guess that would be a cool moment to say you can play this in 2 months, but maybe we'll see Xbox experiment more with their game showcases, and maybe it's not going to be an E3 only thing and a Game Awards only thing. As they add more studios and have more projects to reveal, maybe they'll start spreading that out throughout the year. So maybe in spring we'll get some sort of update on Redfall or a gameplay trailer for Redfall. But I'm kind of on the same page with Rand. I think it would be weird if we didn't hear anything about Redfall until 2 months before it came out.
Yeah. That's kind of been one of those things that I don't know. I think I was talking to Rand about that earlier, about how Xbox needs to show like this 10-minute gameplay segment, and they just don't. The closest we got was the Craig Halo Infinite in 2020, where it was 5 minutes of continuous gameplay. Smack Craig, and then people are like, oh crap. And you got to think that maybe some of the studios for Xbox are a little gun shy to show extended gameplay so early on and have it picked apart.
So early on, remember when they showed it, Halo was supposed to be launching like 4 months later.
A month later.
Yeah. So I mean, like,
oh yeah, it was July or June. July.
It was July.
It was supposed to come out that holiday.
So it's come out in 4 months. Yeah. No, I'm saying like they did that. They put out gameplay 4 months prior, and then they feel like they got burned. But hey, if you're out there, studios, and you're listening, I mean, be confident in your stuff. We would love to see Avowed as soon as you feel like it's looking spicy hot good. So
I mean, they did just drop a Halo campaign trailer out of nowhere, right? Like a campaign overview trailer. Just one day was just like,
oh yeah,
it was
6 minutes of Halo. Like they could easily do the same thing for Redfall. It was just like, here's 5 minutes, 6 minutes of Redfall gameplay, and just put it up on YouTube. Or maybe they reintroduce Inside Xbox and they start doing more of it, because maybe you do need more moments to talk about your games, because you have so many studios and so many things going on that E3 is just too little. You need more. Like Sony does state of play quite often. Like and there's a good chance, depending on when God of War releases, that maybe the like God of War is revealed, a bigger gameplay section in the next state of play, rather than for them waiting all the way until like a E3 type showcase. Yeah. So maybe Microsoft is like, okay, we need to start ramping up Inside Xbox, or at least some form of show where we can be like, here's Redfall, here's As Dust Falls, here's Grounded, a 30-minute thing, and then boom, 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 instead of just like, all right, it's just E3 and we only do E3 and maybe we do XO at the end of the year. And those are our 2 touchstone moments. Yeah. Because with 2023 just around the corner, because we're almost in 2022. How did 2021 already come and go so fast? I feel like it just started and now it's over.
Well, I mean, it helped that I played a ton of great games.
True.
I know people look at 2021 and maybe you're like, oh, it wasn't that great. And if you're on Xbox, it really didn't get kicking for new content until, the early summer. But I mean,
the point I was trying to make was essentially that around 2023 is when Microsoft's vision, because even Miles made a video about this, where it's like one AAA game every quarter, right? Yeah. And essentially, if you do it like that, you're going to have 2 huge games launch before you even have E3. And Microsoft typically only does E3. So at some point, you would think they need to have more events to talk about some of those games that are launching earlier in the year. So maybe, I don't know. Do you guys think that's something they should think about doing more?
Absolutely, because they got rid of Inside Xbox, which was their opportunity to showcase stuff. And I know it's a bunch of work, but we're kind of in this mode now where you can create something and release it on YouTube and put out a press release and a blog report, and you're golden. Like, people will hit that stuff if it's a big announcement. I really think that as soon as a game is ready to show, those studios should feel like, Xbox marketing should be on board with, hey, can we put this out in March? Absolutely. If you're ready and you think you've got a good reveal, let's show it. And I think that needs to change, because remember, we used to not get games in the summer, and they used to wait till like in the fall, and now games are coming out in the summer in force. And this is changing. I think people like to stay at home and play video games more than they used to. I got an older super chat I had to kind of dig up here from iSiler18. We were talking about the Uncharted thing. He said, plenty of folks don't care about $10. My issue is you can't call this an Uncharted Legacy with only 2 games. I must be the only one puzzled with this. So is this is just Uncharted Lost Legacy and Uncharted 4 because the first 3 are already remastered? Is that what the situation is?
I mean, yeah, it is kind of weird to call it Legacy when it's just 2 Uncharted games and not all the Uncharted games, right? It'd be like calling Master Chief Collection the Master Chief Collection, but it only had Halo 4, right? Or like Halo 4 and like ODST or something, where you're just like, okay, well, that's not all of them. So, Miles, what do you think? What do you think about more shows though?
I think that's an excellent approach for Xbox, and Xbox has proven this year, if they've proven anything, it's that they know how to guide their marketing narrative on social media. They know how to get attention. There were several stretches where it was week after week after week, Xbox had something. It wasn't necessarily a new game
like
review,
every Monday, right?
But every Monday there was something Xbox related, something that got people talking about Xbox. And if they really do want to do 1 game per quarter, we can't rely on E3 and the Game Awards to carry Xbox through the entire year. And maybe it is going to be those gameplay overviews like we saw with Halo Infinite. Like, on a random Monday, we're just like, Redfall gameplay overview. Here's 8 minutes of Redfall co-op. Here's how it's going to work.
Do it.
Maybe they'll just lean into those. But I would love, again, there's a reason the Nintendo Directs are so popular. It's this nice, tight pocket of games. And it's easy to digest. It puts stuff on your radar. And it's a format that can easily be kind of thrown at any time of the year. It doesn't need to associate with E3 or the Game Awards. So I want Xbox to have its own kind of, Inside Xbox was great for what it was, but I want a nice tight update style format.
And with those dislike counts hidden, you don't have to worry about if you have a tepid state of play, you're getting like barraged with people hitting the boom, 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 right? So maybe it gives you a little breathing room, right, Rand? Like, like, we wish we had those dislike buttons back for our channels, but that's one of those things. Like, Miles, you nailed it. Like, Xbox, you're not listening to this show, but get out there, just put some stuff together. And they don't even have to do an Inside Xbox like upload edition. Like, just let your studios share when they're ready. And maybe, Matt Booty should reach out, marketing should reach out and say, hey, hey, Compulsion, when do you think you're ready to show your new game? And they're saying, you know what? I think we'll have your vertical slice ready in, September. And like, all right, cool, let's work on it. And, keep on them, let them do their thing. But yeah, I don't know. We love to see that stuff. And I feel like in this day and age, you can reveal at any time during the year. You can reveal a Christmas morning and we're going to watch. Shout out to 108 Dragon STV or Lemon with the $5 super chat. It says, hey guys, great show. How many remasters of a remaster do we honestly need? I feel like it's more of a cash grab. Enough is enough. I'm a fan of the series. The remasters are the name of the game, I guess. You don't really need them now. If the studios can upgrade them to a higher frame rate, because now the consoles can handle it, but they're not going away, are they?
You remember when I said, hey, Colt, with this new generation coming up, I bet you there are going to be some publishers that charge for next-gen patches, and you were like, they can't get away with that. And that
I remember that discussion so well. And I think Dealer and I were talking to you, and we kind of made fun of you, like,
yeah, you made fun of me.
That's too mustache twirling. It's too evil. evil. Give me your mustache twirl there, Miles.
But never underestimate corporate greed.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately. But shout out to Don Matrick for being on the Xbox documentary, and I hope he's doing well, working at Candy Crush, whatever he's doing. But there is some corporate greed. But we have been here long enough. These guys are amazing. Thank them so much in the chat. If you're in the chat, right? Thanks, Miles. Thanks, Rand, for coming here and giving us the deets and the info and some of the speculation. It's been a really great show. This is the XNC podcast. Hit the like on the way out. We're going to take off. This show will be set up on Google, Spotify, Pocket Podcasts, Apple Podcasts for on demand. So you can check this out later. If you're in the UK or New Zealand or wherever, and it was just way too late, you fell asleep, you'll be able to listen to the rest of the show. It'll also have timestamps for you people that love to get right to your favorite parts. Thank you, Randall Thor. Everybody knows you. You're super famous, but give yourself a plug and tell them what's next.
Yeah, I'm super famous.
Rand? You are Rand. You were famous. You were famous 4 years ago when the great Randall Thor. I remember DMing you like, Rand, we need to work together. We need to do YouTube together. You're so famous. Rand, tell the people where they can find you and what's next on the Randall Thor 19 channel.
They can find me on youtube.com/RandallThor19. Do the podcast with Jez, Xbox 2, powered by Manscaped, for a little bit. We got a podcast coming up this week with Jez and maybe some video. Maybe I'll make a couple videos. I don't know. I'm trying to aim for at least 2. So maybe I'll have a video out tomorrow. I don't know about what, but I need to do something. Colt, you're ridiculous, by the way.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's it.
No. No, I really appreciate you. Rand and I work together. Not a lot of people know, but Rand and I kind of work together on our channels, help each other, work on stuff, and come up with ideas. So I really appreciate him. But the man who is not just more famous than Rand, but more desirable in every way, Miles Dompier, Windows Central,
Elden Ring himself.
The man who has summoned some of the greatest games into existence. Miles, what is next for Chatterdays, for your work you do with the team? Humble brag it up.
Yes, thank you for acknowledging that I am, in fact, more famous than Rand and more desirable than Rand. I'm glad that is recorded.
Both those things are true. Both those things are definitely true.
No. Love you guys. Obviously, before I was quote unquote in the industry or whatever you want to call it, I used to listen to Xbox 2 as I was driving between accounts for my job. So I remember listening to Jez Corden, Randall Thor, before I was making videos for Windows Central, before I was on podcast with Rand. So it's awesome to just, have it come full circle, get a hangout, talk to Rand. And yeah, if you want to get a hold of me on Twitter at Miles Dompier, I'm on there way too much. I tweet too much. Interact there. Windows Central Gaming on YouTube is where I put most of my videos up. Xbox Chatterdays, if you haven't checked it out. Finally, 46 episodes in, we put it on audio services, so you can listen to it on Spotify and Google Play and iTunes and all that good stuff.
Awesome.
But yeah, mostly writing and making videos for Windows Central.
And playing that guitar.
Yeah, just shredding tasty licks, as my side hustle.
For $0.00.
Exactly. Making it rain. Absolutely nothing. But
yeah, you guys are amazing. This show is a lot of work, but the chat's awesome. Shout out to my mods, Lethal Papa and Happy Bomb, for keeping everything clean and clear and getting rid of the crazies and keeping the people who are crazy good. You guys are so awesome. We're going to get out of here. Have a good night. Get on that Halo Infinite. Get sweaty. Let us know your stories on Twitter. You guys are amazing. We're out of here. Have a good night.